Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. People in Hokage, get married Kushina, my son is Naruto. Chapter 21. Yi Feng was crying and laughing, and quickly pulled the two apart. Drink. Ju Shinai was still holding her cup, and Yi Feng directly took her cup. What the hell, I want to drink. Stop drinking, go home. Yokage directly picked up Kushina, took 2 steps, turned around and kicked Uchiha Fugaku, who was drunk and wanted to pounce on Uchiha Makoto, away. Still want to get drunk and do something? Yi Feng glanced at the half-awake and half-drunk Uchiha Makoto, shook his head helplessly, and pulled away together. Leaving behind Uchiha Fugaku, who was holding the air on the ground. Just walked out and happened to run into Makoto, Uchiha's father. So Makoto handed over safely. Then, Yi Feng hugged Ju Shina and left the territory of the Uchiha clan. Under the moonlight, Ju Shinai said in a daze. Night Maple, 5-6. Yi Feng suddenly rolled his eyes, as if he saw the birth of another gambling monster. In Konoha, another gambling monster is, of course, the famous Tsunade Hime. Hey, Jiraiya, do you want to go to the hot spring? At this time, a hearty woman's voice came from ahead. Yi Feng followed the voice and was stunned. Isn't this Tsunade? The white-haired man next to him, Jiraiya. Although Yorikid had never seen Tsunade and Jiraiya, he recognized them at a glance. The main thing is that the white hair of Jiraiya is more conspicuous. Zilai also said with a righteous look, no need, let's go to the teacher's side to report first, don't grind. Quote, I really don't want to soak in the hot spring, you can relieve fatigue, I heard that this place is very popular with girls, and it has been changed to mixed baths. As soon as Jiraiya heard about the mixed bath, he immediately walked towards the hot spring. Oh, people need to relax occasionally, go for a hot spring. Quote, haha, you didn't say that just now. Tsunade smiled wickedly and turned his head to see that he was facing Yokade's eyes. This is, Ju Shinai. Quote, so late, Ju Shinai seems to be drunk, this man actually took the opportunity to get oil. It's just looking for death. You fool, you dare to do such a thing to Ju Shinai, looking for death. Tsunade's whole body erupted with golden chakra and rushed towards Yokade. Yi Kaide was a little confused, what did Tsunade want to do? Mudden Mu ingot wall. Before Tsunade's fist smashed, a row of wooden pillars bent from the ground to form arches, blocking Yokade's face. Bang, a bang, the ground trembled. Tsunade's fist burst out with the light of chakra, which had already pierced the wall of the wooden ingot. In the Hokage office, Sarutobi Hinata was waiting for Tsunade and Jiraiya to come back and report, but when he heard this loud noise, he suddenly stood up. What happened again? Konoha has really not been peaceful lately. Ape Flying Sun Chopper quickly took the cloak, jumped out of the window, and sped across the roof, speeding in the direction of the loud noise. And Jiraiya, who was the place of the incident, had just walked into the pond and was startled by the sudden loud noise, and looked back. What about Tsunade? Jiraiya rushed out, only to see Tsunade fighting with a young man. Countless thick roots emerged from the young man's side, blocking Tsunade's attack. Shadow Doppelganger, because there was also a young man in the back who was still holding a red-haired girl. That's Ju Shinai, Mu Duan. Quote, for the first time, he already knew that this young man was Yi Feng, who was in the limelight these days. Ku Wu, shuriken shot indiscriminately. Boom, it even shot at Jiraiya. I also heard Tsunade scolding. Little one, don't let go of Ju Shinai yet. We Senju clan have never had a guy as Jiraiya, but you have set a precedent. Quote, lying groove, why are you pulling me up? Jiraiya was injured. However, when Jiraiya heard Yi Kaide using various ninjutsu to resist Tsunade's attack, and holding Ju Shinai, he still had the strength to refute Tsunade. Hey, you gambling monster mean to talk about me. If you still do it, don't blame me for being unkind. Quote, oh, little one, it seems that you didn't understand. Come on, let me see how you are not polite. As soon as the words fell, Tsunade punched the shadow doppelganger, and instantly came to Yi Feng's face. However, countless vine-like saplings wrapped around Tsunade's feet, then wrapped around Tsunade's whole body, growing into a large tree, completely crushing Tsunade under the tree. Mu done, tree binding eternal burial. Tsunade's eyes widened as well. Bang, the same as a stand-in. Tsunade's figure suddenly appeared behind Yokade. Not bad. However, before Tsunade could kick a kick, Yokade's figure disappeared again, and then appeared next to Jiraiya. What a fast instantaneous technique. Jiraiya's eyes widened. Flying Thunder God technique. Did the teacher teach him? Tsunade also showed a look of surprise. This young man is a little fierce. There is the wooden dun of the first grandfather, and there is the instantaneous technique of the second generation of the second grandfather. And Yefeng didn't make another move because someone came. He looked up at the sky, and a golden light shot down. Bang! A Vajra Rui stick was inserted into the ground, and a person fell from the air. 3 generations of Hokage, ape flying sun slash came. Teacher, teacher, teacher. Suddenly, a person walked out of the shadows, the big snake pill. 3 generations of Hokage, Konoha Sanshin, gathered in front of the hot spring pond hall. Such a person. Yefeng broke the silence. Sarutobi said coldly, Jiraiya, Tsunade, what are you doing here? Quote. Tsunade's eyes moved, and he pointed at Yefeng and said, Teacher, this shameless fellow, actually took advantage of the opportunity to get oil when Kushina was drunk. Quote. Fortunately, I found it in time, otherwise, Kushina would have been miserable. Yifeng was suddenly speechless, and the thick root vine appeared from the ground again, and Tsunade spoke out again and tied it directly. Ape Fei Richo looked at Yifeng and said, Yifeng, what the hell is going on? Quote. Kushina is drunk, if I don't help her go back, will I drag her back? Tsunade, did you ask about the situation? Tsunade immediately shrugged and said, do you need to ask about the situation? Seeing is believing, isn't that it? Quote. Ding, according to the environment of the host, give 3 choices. Option 1. Choose to forgive Tsunade, accept Tsunade's criticism, reward, a worn shuriken. Option 2. Choose to forgive Tsunade, indicating that you let go of defense, reward, sea-level ninjutsu, fire escape phoenix flower technique. Option 3. Choose Mad Tsunade, educate Tsunade well, and obtain, S-level ninjutsu, 100 hero technique. Originally, Yefeng couldn't help but scare people. Now the system is even more scaring choices, and the timing is too well controlled. Yifeng pouted. It's really brainless. Quote. Tsunade's eyes widened and he looked at Yokade. Others were also very surprised. What did you say? Tsunade really didn't expect Yokade to dare to scold her. Don't you have enough brain capacity? I say you have a big chest and no brain. Quote. Seeing is believing. If I don't hold her, will I drag her to the ground and drag her back? Do you have problems with your eyes, or do you have problems with your brain? Quote. If you have a low IQ, you will be less weird, you know. Well-developed limbs and simple mind. Yifeng came down in such a series, and everyone was stunned. Tsunade immediately exploded. You look for death. Just as Tsunade burst out, Yifeng's figure flashed, but it flashed 100 meters away. The Flying Thunder God mark had long been set there, and it teleported there at once. This time it was the turn of Orochimaru and Sarutobi/'s eyes widened. This is the Flying Thunder God technique. Zilai also said strangely, Teacher, didn't you teach him? Quote. Ape Flying Sun shook his head. The big snake pill's eyes flashed and said, if it weren't for the teacher you taught him, this person would be very suspicious. Quote. Ape Flying Sun snorted and said, Big Snake Pill, put away your thoughts, there is something suspicious about the Flying Thunder God technique. Quote. It certainly couldn't have been taught to him by people from other villages. You don't put your mind on him, there is no point, take a few days of rest, you will also go out on a mission. Orochimaru yawned and said, got it, sensei. Quote. However, the big snake pill thought to himself, HMPH, how can the task be as interesting as Yifeng? There will definitely be a chance. Yi Kaide put down Kushina. Ha! A voice suddenly sounded behind Yifeng, and Yifeng's back was cold, and his hair stood up. Zilai also exclaimed, be careful. Quote, I saw that the yin seal on Tsunade's forehead was unsealed, and streaks appeared on his face, and the stripes were staggered on his forehead, passing vertically through his eyes, and meeting his chin all the time. The art of 100 heroes. Unlocking all the chakras of the yin seal, the whole body erupted with golden chakra light. Being frenzied by Yi Kaide, Tsunade was really angry. suddenly appeared behind Yifeng and Kushina, and grabbed Yifeng's head with one hand. Syllable. Yifeng's head split open. This guy is too weak. When Tsunade was about to close. However, the next second, he realized that he was only holding a piece of wood. And the Kushina under his feet also slammed and turned into a piece of wood. Yifeng appeared 10 meters away holding Kushina, and under Tsunade's feet, a thick wooden dragon soared into the sky. Ape Fei sighed and said, "Wood dragon art, I haven't seen it for a long time, I didn't expect to see it here." Quote. He was very impressed with the wood dragon art. This huge wooden dragon, which was used in the first generation when the Nine Tails was in turmoil, was bound by the big tree to the body very strongly, and even made the bound Nine Tails scream, and once entangled, it would be absorbed chakra. The first generation used this move to suppress the actions of the Nine Tails. This move seems to have given a strong impression to the ape flying sun. Of course, now this wooden dragon is much smaller. Find death. Tsunade smashed a punch on the wooden dragon, but was surprised to find that his chakra was actually absorbed by the wooden dragon. With that, wood dragon tied Tsunade up. HMPH, something like this can trap me. Tsunade bursts out more chakras very confidently. The art of the wooden dragon, but Tsunade's grandfather, the famous stunt between the 1,000-hand pillars. Tsunade naturally knew very well that the easiest way to break the wood dragon art was to use chakra to burst the opponent. If you want to suck me chakra, I'll let you suck enough. Sarutobi also knew for the first time what Tsunade was going to do. He didn't plan to stop Tsunade either. As Hokage, it was not appropriate to strike, but Tsunade was suitable. Besides, Tsunade is also the granddaughter of Uzumaki Mito. It really hurt Hokage, and Uzumaki Mito couldn't blame himself. Mainly recently, Yifeng, this young man, is a little swollen. It was remarkable to think that he had awakened the blood succession limit of the 1,000 Hands clan. He even killed 10 people from the roots, causing him to destroy his relatives and send Tuanzang away. It's time for Yifeng to know what is outside the sky, and there are people outside the people. However, when Tsunade began to erupt chakra, Yokade's eyes lit up, and he felt that a huge amount of chakra, through the wooden dragon, was transmitted to the ground, and then rushed back into his body. Finally, chakra passed through his feet and rushed straight to the yin seal of the heavenly gate. Is this charging me? Yifeng's forehead, the imprint of the yin seal also shone brightly. It was just covered by Konoha's forehead and no one found out. Tsunade was still full of confidence, but gradually, her face changed. The yin seal chakra that he has stored for more than 2 years has already consumed more than half, and this guy still hasn't changed his face. Is something wrong? Ape Fei Chopper's face also changed slightly, and quickly said loudly, "Yifeng, don't hold it hard, it's not good if you hurt." Quote. Yifeng smiled and said, "3 generations of adults don't worry, I didn't hold it hard, today I just want to see, what confidence do you have? If you don't understand the situation, you dare to make a move casually, even if Grandma Mito comes over today, I will educate you well." Quote. Kushina heard Yifeng speak, his long eyelashes moved, opened his eyes slightly, saw several figures, rubbed his eyes, took a closer look, and exclaimed. "Ah, three generations of adults. This is Tsunade's sister." Quote. Kushina blew a cold wind, the wine woke up, and when he saw that Hokage and Tsunade were fighting, he was immediately so anxious that tears were about to come out. "Yifeng, what the hell is going on?" Tsunade snorted and said, "Kushina, just wake up, this guy just took advantage of your drunkenness and wanted to pump you oil." Quote. Kushina immediately shook his head and said, "Sister Tsunade, you must be mistaken, Yifeng he will definitely not do this." Quote. When Tsunade heard this, he wanted to vomit blood. "Chick, don't you turn your arms out like this, okay?" Yifeng smiled and said, "Did you hear that, Tsunade? You see it is believing. I see you're blind." Quote. Kushina immediately glared at Yifeng in dissatisfaction and said, "Yifeng, how are you talking to Tsunade's sister?" Quote. She didn't say anything just now, she directly wanted to get me, and said, "What should I do to you? It doesn't matter if I ruin my reputation, what should I do to ruin your reputation? This guy doesn't have a brain, he has a chest." Quote. Tsunade was angry and died of anger, and directly broke out the maximum chakra. However, these chakras are like mud cows going into the sea, entering Night Fang's body, and disappearing completely, and Night Fang's body seems to be a bottomless pit. Now Tsunade is sweating profusely, and it is difficult to ride a tiger. She really didn't expect that Yefeng would be so difficult. Sarutobi saw Tsunade deflated, and immediately said, Yifeng, forget it, everyone take a step back. Quote. However, Yifeng did not pay attention to the words of the ape flying sun, but instead Mulong used his strength and directly set up Tsunade's hand. Another thick vine rose up and struck Tsunade's ass. Syllable. Crisp audible sound. There was silence. Everyone looked at Yefeng dumbfounded. Yifeng said lightly, I don't educate her well now, and if I go out to make trouble in the future, won't it ruin Konoha's reputation, the reputation of Senju, and the reputation of 3 generations? Quote. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing choice 3. Choose the mad Tsunade, educate the Tsunade well, and obtain S-level ninjutsu, the art of 100 heroes. Yefeng was very satisfied. Tsunade's face was red and dripping blood, and the art of Hyakuo broke out. With a force of both hands, he directly broke the wooden dragon. Go and die. Tsunade's feet condensed golden chakra, turned into a streamer, and kicked towards Yifeng. Physical surgery. Pain in the feet. As long as you step heavily on the ground, you can collapse and crack. Kick on people, not knowing what will happen. Now Tsunade couldn't take care of it. It was like Yifeng's instant explosion to solve the hatred in her heart. Don't. Ju Shinai hurriedly blocked in front of Yifeng. Tsunade's face changed. This kick, she couldn't take it back. Ju Shinai, get out of the way. The 3 generations of Hokage and Jiraiya also changed their faces and rushed forward. However, Yifeng's hand speed was faster, and it instantly froze. And not 1 print, but 3 reprints. At this moment, Tsunade saw 2 black stripes suddenly appear on Yokade's face, running through his eyes and meeting on his forehead and chin. The art of 100 heroes. Around Tsunade, 3 thick wooden dragons appeared, one after the other, encircling Tsunade layer by layer. Touch. In just an instant, Tsunade lost his vision and slammed heavily on the ground. When Tsunade was smashed on the ground, he was still wondering if he was blinded. Ape Flying Sun Chopper and Zilai were embarrassed to find that Yefeng didn't seem to need to save himself at all. Isn't it false at all? Ape Fei squinted his eyes, thinking to himself, is Yefeng already so strong? Stronger than Tsunade? Or is it style? The big snake pill who was watching from the sidelines was even more shocked, and now the strength shown by Yefeng was far higher than the strength he showed during his temptation a week ago. Now Yi Maple is incredibly strong. Orochimaru even felt that even if he was his own teacher, he could not completely suppress Tsunade so easily. You see, Tsunade is now so trapped on the ground that he can't move at all. At this time, Uzumaki Mito suddenly appeared. Ape Fei, what's going on? Then, Uzumaki Mito saw Tsunade bound on the ground, and his eyes widened. Yifeng, let go of Tsunade, what the hell is going on with you? When Uzumaki Mito appeared, Yokade lifted the 100 Heroes technique. In fact, the art of the 100 Heroes is similar to the enhancement ninjutsu. Open the 100 How technique, completely unlock the Yin Seal, and allow the large amount of chakra stored in the Yin Seal to be used freely, thus making it possible to launch large-scale ninjutsu and forbidden arts. And because chakra perfuses the whole body, the strength of physical skills and strange powers will increase. After closing the 100 How technique, the toughness of the wood dragon art naturally weakened. Bang! Tsunade directly shattered the wooden dragon, looking at Yefeng gritting his teeth, I'm going to kill you. Quote. She was actually educated by a little guy under 20 years old. Ahem. Tsunade, don't make trouble. Quote. Ape Flying Sun Chopper is also speechless, what are you doing to mess with Yifeng? Uzumaki Mito said lightly, go back. Quote. Kushina looked at Yokade, but still ran over to hold Tsunade. Tsunade glared at Kushina. HMPH, Kushina, you turned your elbows out, and you actually turned towards outsiders. Quote. Uzumaki Mito glared at Tsunade, enough. Get back. Quote. Sarutobi coughed and said, Tsunade, you need to go to the office with Jiraiya first. Quote. Tsunade glared at Yorutobi and huffed and followed the ape flying sun. Halfway through, Jiraiya couldn't help but ask, Tsunade, is that night maple? Ah! Tsunade roared angrily and punched Jiraiya in the face. Bang! Zillai also flew out directly upside down. Boom! The house in front of him collapsed directly, and several ninjas suddenly flew out. Enemy attack. Sarutobi glared at Tsunade, then walked up and said, it's okay, it's okay. Quote. Ah, Naruto-sama. It's you. Quote. Tsunade-sama. Lord Orochimaru. When these ninjas saw the ape-flying sun slashing them, they bowed their heads respectfully. Sarutobi asked with concern, are you all right? Quote. It's okay, it's okay. Well, I was just taken aback. At this time, there was a groan from the collapsed bricks. Ah! Zillai also covered his face and climbed out. The ninjas all looked strange. Ape Fairy took out a wad of money speechlessly and said, you guys will first be aggrieved to stay in a hotel tonight, and tomorrow morning I will ask someone to help you repair it. Quote. It's okay, Naruto-sama, we're not in a hurry. There you go. Yes, Naruto-sama. Turning around, Hokage looked at Tsunade coldly and said, repair it here, at least 50,000 taels, remember to go to the finance department to pay in advance. Quote. Tsunade snorted and said, no money. Quote. On the other side, Yokade and Jushinai followed Uzumaki Mito back. Can't you just let Tsunade-san's sister? Jushinai glared angrily at Yefeng and said. Yefeng shrugged, he wanted to let it, but the system didn't give it. Look, now it's like this. I'll come back later, and quickly apologize to Tsunade's sister. Quote. Yefeng ignored it. Apologize what? It's Tsunade who made the move first, educate yourself, isn't it a normal thing? Jushinai saw the appearance of Yifeng's oil and salt not entering, so angry that he reached out to pinch the meat, and then Jushinai found that he couldn't pinch it. So hard. Uzumaki Mito was also helpless. Yi Kaide, how did you guys fight? Quote. Yifeng explained the matter clearly one by one. When Jushinai heard this, he immediately blamed himself and said, hey, I drank too much, if I hadn't been drunk, I wouldn't have done this. Quote. Uzumaki Mito shook his head and said, it's not your problem, Tsunade is so big and grinning. Quote. Then, Uzumaki Mito looked at Yi Kaide again and said, Yifeng, when did you learn the Yin Seal and the art of 100 How? Quote. Jushinai's eyes widened, what? Yifeng, when did you learn the Yin Seal? Quote. Jushinai was a little confused and didn't see clearly, but when Uzumaki Mito appeared, he could already see that Yokade had used the 100 How technique to unlock the Yin Seal. At that time, Uzumaki Mito was also very surprised, this is just not said. Yefeng scratched his head and said, well, it's all learned when you taught Jushinai by Grandma Mito. Quote. What? Jushinai's eyes are about to pop out. Grandma Mito taught me, you were next to salted fish, I didn't learn, you learned. Jushinai suddenly felt very heartbroken. Uzumaki Mito was also stunned for a moment, revealing a look of surprise. This kind of comprehension ability, I'm afraid it's not as good as the second generation, right? The Senju family is going to come out of the dragon. But you can't do that to Tsunade. It's really annoying to use vines to hit Tsunade. Yifeng also ignored it, returned to the small courtyard, and immediately went to take a bath. When I was taking a bath, I suddenly remembered that there was a hot pond in the place just now, which is the most famous hot pond restaurant in Konoha village. Speaking of which, I haven't been to the bath yet. Would you like to take a chance? Yifeng immediately ran back to his room after washing. Then, the door slammed open. Come in. Jushinai's hair came in wet, with a faint fragrance, her skin was white and red, there were a little water droplets, and she looked like she had just taken a bath. Yefeng was a little confused, it was so late, what did Jushinai want to do? Jushinai's face turned slightly red, and she said softly, Yi Kaide, do you want to apologize to Tsunade's sister without waiting? Quote. Looking at Jushinai's pleading look, Yifeng's heart softened and said, okay, isn't it just an apology? Ding, according to the environment of the host, give 3 choices. Option 1. Choose to apologize to Tsunade, admit your mistake, reward, a broken shuriken. Option 2. Choose to forgive Tsunade, indicating that you are not angry at all, reward, A-level ninjutsu, shuriken shadow avatar art. Option 3. Choose mad Tsunade, educate Tsunade well, and get A-level ninjutsu, shuriken in all directions. Well, the system you were good. Ye Kaide coughed and said, I think I'm right, but I've forgiven Tsunade. I'm not angry at all, as long as Tsunade doesn't mess with me again. Quote. Ju Shinai glared at Yi Feng and said, Yi Feng, are you apologizing? Quote. I'm right, why should I apologize? Ju Shinai stomped his foot in anger. Suddenly the door slammed open. Ye Feng and Ju Shinai were both stupid. Tsunade, who was standing at the door, was also dumbfounded and pointed at Yokade. You, what are you doing in my room? Ju Shinai suddenly blushed, and quickly waved his hand and said, Sister Tsunade, we didn't do anything, it's like this, Ye Feng wants to apologize to you. Quote. Ye Kaide was also a little confused, he slept in Tsunade's boudoir before, no wonder there was a special aroma. Apologize. Tsunade looked at Yorikide. Sister Tsunade, I have already forgiven you, and I am not angry at all about today's matter, as long as you don't mess with me again in the future. Well, don't blame me, the system forced me. I don't scare you, you already count me merciful. Congratulations to the host for completing choice 2. Choose to forgive Tsunade, saying that he is not angry at all. Reward, A-level ninjutsu, shuriken shadow avatar art. Tsunade smiled angrily. Hee, boy, you come out, I don't want to ruin this place, let's go to the training ground to practice. Quote. At this time, Uzumaki Mito came over. Uzumaki Mito glanced at Tsunade and said, You haven't come back for almost 2 years, will you fight and kill as soon as you come back? Quote. Ju Shinai was in a hurry and looked at Yi Feng. Ye Feng shrugged and said, I said I forgave her. Quote. Uzumaki Mito also knew that Ye Feng ate soft and not hard, and sighed and said, Okay, Tsunade, don't mess around, Yokade you too, she is your sister, you just let her. Quote. Tsunade was angry. Do I need him to let? Quote. Lost a big face in front of so many people today. I didn't expect to try it out and turn out to be like this. Now, his boudoir is still occupied. My own grandmother is still to outsiders. Tsunade was angry, and his whole body chakra erupted. Ju Shinai hurriedly said, Sister Tsunade, or break your wrist with Yi Feng. Quote. Ye Kaide, you broke your wrist with Tsunade's sister, if you lose, can you apologize to her? Kushina knew that Tsunade's strength was infinite, and in Konoha, breaking his wrist, no one was Tsunade's opponent at all. This can also give Tsunade a step down, and it can also make Yokade not too embarrassed. Yi Feng suddenly smiled and said, This is not impossible. Quote. He remembered the episode in the anime where Tsunade and Thunder Cage duel and broke their wrists. That shocking scene. It's kind of interesting. Tsunade was originally very angry, and when he heard this, his eyes immediately lit up. Boy, do you dare to bet? I tell you, no one has ever won against me. Quote. Yes, it seems that the current Tsunade has not been compared with Lei Ying. That wrist break, in the end, Thunder Shadow won. Tsunade's strength is greater, but Thunder Cage is faster and uses a small trick to win Tsunade. By now, this plot should not have happened yet. Tsunade snorted. Boy, don't say such strange things, I'll make you lose miserably later. Quote. Okay, but what if I win? Can you win? If you win, I can promise you anything. Quote. Tsunade laughed confidently. Go to the training ground. Quote. Uzumaki Mito shook his head and said, You guys go, my old wife is going to rest, the voice is small at night, don't make noise with others. Quote. Tsunade waved his hand and said, Grandma, I know. Quote. Tsunade felt that his thoughts were clear, thinking that he would finish his own abuse of Ye Kaide, and suddenly smiled. Soon, Yokade and Tsunade arrived at the training ground. The training ground was empty, and Tsunade picked a boulder and easily smashed it with a punch, which instantly turned into a wrist-breaking platform to use. Boy, how's it going, scared? Tsunade originally wanted to shock Yokade, but seeing that Yokade didn't care at all, he suddenly felt even more upset. You'll know how good I am later. Yorikide and Tsunade stood at opposite ends of the stone platform, clasping each other's hands. Tsunade also turned to Kushina and said, Kushina, you step back and be careful to hurt you. Quote. Ju Shinai nodded and retreated 10 meters away, and then shouted loudly, 3, 2, 1, start. Quote. Quadruple A. Tsunade let out a continuous roar, and the golden chakra erupted from his body the moment Ju Shinai announced the start. Yifeng smiled slightly, and his strength began to rise. 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50% ideographic period. I saw that on Yifeng's body, purple chakra also appeared. Tsunade was slightly distracted, looking at the chakra on Yifeng's body. It turned out to be exactly the same as his grandfather. At the same time, a huge force also came from his hand. HMPH, Tsunade snorted, and in an instant opened the yin seal on his forehead. The art of 100 heroes. The chakra on Tsunade's body was about to overflow to redeem the disadvantage just now. The power of this kid turned out to be so great. And also with a breezy look. Tsunade let out a low roar, and his whole body was covered with a golden sheen. I don't believe it, you have more strength than me. The terrifying momentum, centered on Hokage and Tsunade, burst in all directions, and purple and gold chakras swirled around, forming a whirlwind of purple and gold mixed. Rumble. The stone platform cracked. The ground on which the two were standing also cracked. Sarutobi Hinata, who had just returned home, had just sat down when he received news from the Dark Ninja. Tsunade and Hokage again. Sarutobi Bawako was originally still complaining that Sarutobi has often worked overtime recently. The eldest son is preparing to graduate, and the youngest son Sarutobi Asma is also entering ninja school this year, and Sarutobi Hinata has no time to pay attention to his two sons. Then, the ape flew away again. Sarutobi Bawako shook his head helplessly. Maybe overtime is Hokage's fate. At the same time, Konoha White Fang and Bofeng Shuaman, who had just sent off Tuan Zhang and returned to the village, also saw the purple-gold tornado that suddenly appeared from the training ground. What's that? Go over and take a look. In the training ground, Ju Shinai had already retreated another 10 meters. I can't see what happened to Hokage and Tsunade inside the chakra whirlwind. Now Ju Shinai regretted it in his heart, and he shouldn't have proposed to break his wrist. What is the difference between this and fighting? I saw the purple chakra on Yifeng's body, rolling up like a boil and rushing into the air. At the same time, countless branches and vines emerged from Ju Shinai's feet, forming a wall in front of Ju Shinai. Yi Kaide was single-minded, and while following Tsunade to break his wrist, he was still protecting Ju Shinai. HMPH, Count, you qualified and know how to protect Ju Shinai. Tsunade roared, and the desire to fight that had been immersed in for the past 2 years was instantly ignited by Yifeng. The golden chakra also soared straight into the sky, and the wind swept the clouds. Bang! The huge chakra scattered in the air, and the heavy pressure actually collapsed the land around the two of them. Bang! 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 One big hole after another has formed all around. Ju Shinai. Ju Shinai looked back and saw that it was Bofeng Shuaman and Kimu Shuamao coming. What the hell is going on here? Watergate frowned, looking at the two figures of one purple and one gold that were faintly not clear on both sides of the stone platform, and was stunned for a moment. Night Maple, that woman is. Kiki Shuamao next to him said, it's Tsunade. Quote. Tsunade-sama. Watergate's eyes widened. Tsunade was Konoha Sanshinu, who was also on a par with his master. And it seems that Yifeng still has an advantage. Kimu Shuamao frowned. Yifeng's strength exceeded his imagination. His own assassination technique can be said to be the first in Konoha, but with strength alone, he is inferior to Tsunade. But Yi Kaide in front of him was already ahead of Tsunade. Is the blood succession limit so strong after awakening? The Thousand Hands clan is terrible. Yi Kaide actually broke his wrist with Tsunade and didn't fall behind. Watergate was hurt. He thought he could catch up with Yifeng, but found that he seemed to be thrown farther away. At this moment, the ape flying sun slashed in. Hey, what are you doing? Before the words fell, Tsunade roared, gathered all his forces together, and suddenly pressed down. Rumble. A bang. A huge explosive force erupted centered on Hokage and Tsunade. It's like countless explosives, exploding in an instant. Everyone's faces were paled by the sudden burst of light. Bofeng Shuaman's eyes widened, and he quickly blocked in front of Ju Shinai. Of course, Yifeng's reaction was faster, and he had already surrounded Ju Shinai with the muttonwood ingot wall and the mudu tree boundary wall. Ahem, what are you doing? Except for Ju Shinai, the others were blown up to ashes. Even the ape flying sun chop is no exception. Looking at the two who were completely engulfed in the smoke of the explosion, Kushina suddenly found that her proposal was really not good. Ape Flying Sun Chopper was also speechless. You guys just break your wrists, is it necessary? I won. The smoke gradually cleared, and Yoriki's hand pressed Tsunade's hand against the table made of boulders. The stone platform had been shattered, and the land beneath the two men was covered with radial cracks. Tsunade looked at Yoriki stunned, really couldn't believe that he had actually lost. Moreover, Yefeng is still single-minded and distracted. Yoriki let go of Tsunade's hand and stood up, loosening his shoulders and arms. Ape Flying Sun Chopper also looked surprised. Yokade won Tsunade. You must know that you are purely competing in strength, and you are not necessarily Tsunade's opponent. Yifeng, this kid, is amazing. Himu Shuamao was silent. As for Watergate, it stood still. It's a bit hard to accept. Ju Shinai hurriedly ran up. Night Maple, are you okay? Quote. Yefeng touched Ju Shinai's head and said, it's okay. Quote. Ju Shinai glared at Yi Kaide, and quickly ran to Tsunade. Sister Tsunade, are you all right? Quote. It's okay, it's just that my hands are a little numb. Tsunade said lightly, shaking his head. Losing is losing, and Tsunade, as a generation of gambling monsters, is still willing to gamble and lose. Tsunade Heim, but our bet still counts. It's okay for me to say what Tsunade said, let's say, what do you want me to do? I haven't thought of this yet, let's talk about it next time. HMPH. Again this kid dares to propose something messy, I beat him to death. Then, Tsunade suddenly thought, can he beat him? Forget it, let's talk about it later. Tsunade didn't embarrass Yakid anymore afterwards, returned to the small courtyard, and took the initiative to pick up the bed and go to sleep on the sofa. For this reason, Ju Shinai also glared at Yefeng a few times. Uzumaki Mito also looked surprised when he learned that Yokade had won Tsunade. Tsunade actually lost, and sure enough, only the people of the Senju family can win the people of the Senju family. Early the next morning, Yefeng was still in a wonderful sleep, but was woken up. What for, Ju Shinai? It turns out that Ju Shinai usually asked you to get up, the benefits are good, boy. Yifeng had not yet opened his eyes, and when he heard this voice, he immediately opened his eyes. How could it be Tsunade? Kushina followed Tsunade. Then, the voice of Uzumaki Mito came from outside. Yokade, get up, this morning, we're going to attend an extraordinary meeting of Konoha's high-level. Konoha high-level ad hoc meeting. Yefeng brushed his teeth while listening to Ju Shinai's explanation. Because of Danzo's dismissal, Mito Menitu, and Kaharu's vacation, Konoha's administration caused a big shock. There will be a new batch of high-ranking officials, hence the Konoha administration. At the same time, there will also be a group of new blood to become the new high level. Oh, so we're going too. Yes, in this way, Yefeng was taken to the meeting site, the administrative building. When I was at the door of the administration building, I also ran into Bofeng Shuaman and Jiraiya, whose face was still wrapped in bandages. Jiraiya also saw Uzumaki Mito, and quickly greeted, Uzumaki Mito-sama. Quote. Uzumaki Mito said strangely, Jiraiya, what's wrong with you? Quote. Jiraiya glanced at Tsunade, and said with a smile, it's okay, I accidentally hit a telephone pole last night, let's go in. Quote. Yefeng originally thought that the whole village was going to go, but when he went, he found that all the people present were famous figures from Konoha village. The high-level officials of various departments, the heads of various ethnic groups, the 3 shinobi of Konoha, and the White Fang of Konoha all participated. There are also outstanding ninjas of the younger generation, such as Yokade, Wave Feng Shuiman, Uchiha Fugaku, and the first generation of Inuga Butterfly. Yokade followed Uzumaki Mito and Tsunade into the meeting site, which immediately attracted everyone's attention and discussion. The man who followed Uzumaki Mito and Tsunade, who else, was not Yakid. Many high-level officials, as well as the heads of various ethnic groups, were all seeing Yefeng Genren for the first time. He's Night Feng, he brought down the gang of 3. But looking at his appearance, there is nothing special. Yi Feng's group was arranged in the first row, which also surprised Yi Feng. But think about it, I represent the Thousand Hands family, and naturally I feel very normal. After all, the Senju clan is the #1 clan in Konoha, at least in terms of reason. Everyone's eyes were on Hokage, who was sitting next to Uzumaki Mito. Yefeng could also hear the whispers of everyone. He's Knight Feng, he came too. Quote, has there been any news that who will sit in the top 2 positions in the administration department? Did Naruto-sama intend to reorganize the roots? In the anime, except for Danzo alone, there are no other clansmen of the Shimura clan, as well as the eldest son of Sarutobi Hinata, and the eldest brother of Sarutobi Asuma, all came. Listening to Shinai explain at the scene, in addition to the 3 major clans of Senju, Hinata and Uchiha, the most famous are the Sarutobi clan and the Shimura clan, which were famous in the Warring States period. Among them, Naruto-sama's father, Sarutobi Sasuke, was a famous ninja at that time and one of the founders who co-founded Konoha. Most of the people who were able to enter the venue were people from the 38th major family. Yi Feng listened to Shinai's words, and then looked at everyone present, and probably understood. The 38 students accepted by the second generation Senju represent the 38 families of Konoha. The so-called Will of Fire is also about blood. You are not a member of the 38 major families, and it is basically impossible to inherit the Will of Fire. The successor of the Will of Fire probably came out of these 38 major families and grew up, that is, to become the top of Konoha. A few lucky people, like Bofeng Shuiman, can become Hokage, but they can't do it with battle merits. The wife is the pillar force of the 9 tails and becomes the spokesperson of the Uzumaki clan, and is obedient enough to obey the opinions of the 3 generations and the elders to be qualified to inherit the Will of Fire. Seeing that Naruto Uzumaki was surnamed Uzumaki, he knew that Watergate had chosen at that time. And Kimu Shuamao, who is of equal strength, is also a prominent military meritorious man, but the meritorious lord, who is also a competitor of the 4th generation of Hokage, was politically murdered. It can be seen that the Will of Fire is not something you can inherit if you want to. Yi Feng thought to himself that if he hadn't awakened the Thousand Hands family's blood succession limit, I'm afraid he wouldn't have entered Konoha's high-level society like this. When Sarutobi entered the conference room under the support of a group of Konoha ninjas, the conference room immediately fell silent. Everyone looked at the ape-flying sun. Under everyone's gaze, the 3 generations of Hokage walked to the podium and scanned it for a week before saying aloud, let me tell you the good news first. Quote, in the first week that Shimura Tuanzang led the group to Union Village, there was an important breakthrough. Union Village has signed a 20-year peace agreement with it. We in Union Village will maintain peace for at least 20 years. Quote, this is an important milestone in our great revival of Konoha, on the road to peaceful rejuvenation. As soon as the words of the ape-flying sun chop came out, the audience was in an uproar. Many people showed a look of joy. In the past few years, from war to peace, everyone knows the preciousness of this peaceful and beautiful peace. If the most militant Union Village is willing to make peace with Konoha, then Konoha can continue to be peaceful. The clansmen of the Shimura clan are full of pride. This is the light of our Shimura, the darkness of Konoha. Even if he was wronged, suffered a black pot, and went away, he also made meritorious contributions to Konoha. Yefeng was also stunned. Tuanzo did not go undercover, but to be an embassy. It's only been a few days, so soon to pave the way for your return. It's really a politician, and it's really 6 playing politics. Uzumaki Mito also frowned, but did not say anything. Uzumaki Mito has never liked power, otherwise, the Senju clan and the Uzumaki clan would not be so miserable, and all the men were hung up. After Sarutobi announced the exciting news, the official topic of the meeting began. Personnel transfer in the executive branch. Sarutobi Hinata said that there will be a group of young talents who will enter the upper echelons of Konoha. Yi Feng listened a little, and after some appointment, the highest chief of the administration department was temporarily served by Ape-Flying Sun's old classmate, Akamichi Takekase. Uzumaki Mito, and the head of the Hyuga family is a special advisor. Tsunade becomes the supreme chief of the medical department, and Orochimaru becomes the deputy. Jiraiya became the principal of the ninja school, and Watergate became the vice principal. As soon as Konoha Sanshin returned, he immediately inserted into various important positions. The Uchiha family was still in charge of the Konoha guards, but due to the dissolution of the roots, the powers of the Konoha guards were further expanded. With the appointment of one person after another, Yi Feng thought to himself, he would not appoint himself to do anything. This idea had just appeared, and the ape on the podium flew into the sun, glanced at Yi Feng, and said lightly, Yi Feng, Shimo Shinobu, the mission of rescuing Ju Shinai is meritorious, and the illegal activities of the hidden roots of the regiment are meritorious, so he was promoted to Special Shangnin, and arranged to be the vice principal of the ninja school. Yi Feng didn't expect that he would be arranged like this. Vice principal of ninja school. Such a big position. Ape Fei Ri spoke on it, and Yi Feng did not plan to refuse in person, just don't go when the time comes. Sarutobi ended with a speech of will of fire. Roughly wherever there are leaves, the fire burns, the shadow of the fire shines on the village, and new leaves sprout. It means that young people are the hope of the future, and the older generation should trust and guard them. The sacrifices of the older generation are not meaningless, but will inspire the young to become pillars of the future. No wonder the three generations can say this passage so fluently. When did it turn out to be taken out and said? After the meeting, Sarutobi also patted Yi Feng's shoulder and said, good job, I believe you can do it. Quote. Bofeng Shuaman also came over and said, Yi Feng, we will be colleagues in the future. Quote. I don't think I'm well suited to be a principal. Tsunade suddenly rolled his eyes. Okay, don't be so stupid, okay. The vice principal, that is, the teacher, understands no. Quote. Wouldn't it, such a routine. Quote. Listening to Ju Shinai's explanation, I knew that in the school, the ordinary teacher was one level higher, that is, the vice principal. The current vice principal has more than 10 people, and he is actually a senior teacher. Yi Feng's epiphany was speechless. Want him to be a teacher. Not interested. However, when Night Maple wanted to be a salted fish, Uzumaki Mito talked to Night Maple about it. In Mito's room in Uzumaki. Yi Feng, what do you think of Ju Shinai? This sentence suddenly came when Yi Feng was defenseless, which really caught Yi Feng off guard. Grandma Mito, Ju Shina is good, good-looking, and… Uzumaki Mito waved his hand. Forget it, let's say it bluntly. Quote. After a pause, Uzumaki Mito suddenly said seriously, Yi Feng, you are the last bloodline of my Senju clan. If you want, you can treat this place as your own home, we are all your relatives. Quote. I'm wondering, can I entrust Ju Shinai to you? When Yi Feng heard this, his eyes immediately lit up. I didn't expect Uzumaki Mito to be so direct. Akito didn't say secret words, and Yokai nodded sharply and said, okay, Grandma Mito. I do. Quote. Uzumaki Mito snorted and said, you sleep all day, what are you willing to do? Quote. Actually, you can also see that Ju Shinai has a good impression of you. So, if you can really come together with Ju Shinai, I am the first to agree. I just don't know if you mean that. Quote. Yi Feng immediately said, of course there is. I love Ju Shinai. Quote. For opportunities, Yi Feng never flinched. Uzumaki Mito nodded in satisfaction. If you want to be with Ju Shinai, you can't hang like this. Quote. Actually, this time the position arrangement was proposed by me with the 3 generations of Hokage. Yi Kaide was stunned for a moment, and understood what Uzumaki Mito meant. Good job, you will become a Hokage in the future. Suddenly, Yi Feng slowly spoke. So Grandma Mito means that if I marry Ju Shinai, I can become a Hokage. Quote. Uzumaki Mito nodded slightly. Yi Feng suddenly smiled. Grandma Mito, is this a dowry? Quote. No, you were originally a member of the Senju clan, and then with Ju Shinai, after I hand over the 9 tails to Ju Shinai in the future, you will definitely be Hokage. At that time, no one will oppose you, because you have strength, and you are a member of the Thousand Hands family, and you have married the 9 tails man Zuli. Understand. The corners of Yi Feng's mouth turned up slightly, and he said in a deep voice, Grandma Mito, I don't want to be a Hokage. Quote. Uzumaki Mito was stunned for a moment. This guy won't be too lazy to be incorrigible. Yi Kaide continued, I want to help Ju Shinai become a Hokage. Quote. Her dream when she was a child was to become Hokage, and I always remember helping her fulfill her dream. Yi Feng's words made Uzumaki Mito's eyes light up. Really? Uzumaki Mito immediately smiled. You want to become Konoha's first female Hokage, the difficulty is far higher than if you were the Hokage. Quote. You said you had such an idea, so at least show me what you plan to do, right? At this time, Ju Shinai's voice sounded outside. Grandma Mito, Yokade, it's time to eat. Uzumaki Mito smiled and said, let's go. Quote, the easiest way to make men feel responsible is to start a family and have children. She believed that today's words would make Yefeng serious. In fact, Uzumaki Mito has not fully said all her thoughts. Her idea is that within these 2 years, get married and have children as soon as possible, and the bloodline of the Senju family can be continued, then it will be good. My own body can still support 5 years, or even 10 years. In this way, Yokade became the vice principal of the ninja school, in fact, an instructor. Recently, the rule of the 5 ninja states has begun to waver, and the borders of various countries and ninja villages have begun to have constant disputes, frictions, and conflicts. The ninjas of Konoha village have also begun to go out on missions in large numbers, and now the village continues to have a large number of new forces, and they also need ninjas who can guide the newborn ones. As a result, Yokade became an instructor at the ninja school. As soon as he arrived at the ninja school, Yokade was assigned a task. Yifeng, you just came, we are in a class, you bring a class of graduates. Ding, according to the current situation of the host, give 3 choices. Option 1. Choose the 3rd class, Coach Mat Kai, Ebisu, Moonlight Blast, Reward, A-Level Ninjutsu, 8-Gate Dun Jaw Formation. Option 2. Choose the 5th class, Coach Ape Flying Asma, Sunset Red, and the same, Reward, A-Level Ninjutsu, 1000 Hands Kill. Option 3. Choose the 7th class, Coach Kakashi Kiki, Obito, Rin Nohara, Reward, Supreme Pack. Bo Feng Shuaman looked at Yifeng and said, Yifeng-kun, you choose first. Quote. Yifeng smiled and said, then I'm welcome, I'll choose the 7th class. Quote. The will of 7 is really everywhere. The 7th class of this year is the class that changed the world. Obito, who was originally the weakest, became Madara's toolman, and once became the big boss of Hokage. And Kakashi is also an important person. Yifeng suddenly thought, will his arrival also change the historical trajectory of the 7th class? If Obito hadn't been seriously injured in the Battle of Shinjubi Bridge, would he still have gone that way? If Yefeng can control the 3 tails in Rin's body, will that prevent the tragedy from happening? And the suicide of Konoha White Fang, and so on. Thinking about it like this, Yefeng felt a little interesting. Bo Feng Shuaman sighed when he saw Yifeng choose the 7th class. He originally liked the 7th class the most. Hearing that Yefeng was going to choose the 7th class, he felt an inexplicable loss in his heart. And it was as if something had been lost. But Bo Feng Shuaman still nodded and said, okay, then let's go to the 7th class. Quote. Yifeng asked rhetorically, what about you? Quote. Bo Feng Shuaman smiled and said, it's okay with me, I'll pick the last one, you go to get your students first, by the way, this professor's guide is for you, you can take a look first. Quote. Yifeng took a copy of the New Shinobi Professor's Guide, and casually let it go. Open volume, Will of Fire. Where the leaves fly, the fire endures. The fire will continue to illuminate the village and allow new leaves to sprout. Quote. Yefeng suddenly rolled his eyes, and looked back at the author of the cover, Ape Flying Sunchop, okay. This sentence should be the words of the ape flying sun, which hung on his lips every day, and wrote this sentence on the tree, and the whole village was popularized. This thought work is really good. Yefeng flipped down. The first section is about being a teacher. First of all, you must have the ability to teach students, and secondly, you must have an inclusive heart and noble morality, so that you can lead by example to influence students to become better. To be a murderous ninja is also to be virtuous, which is also a bit of a bull. Then the second section begins, how to train qualified students as a teacher by organizing various tasks. The so-called qualified students are those who become lower shinobi, middle shinobi, or even upper shinobi, and can go to the battlefield. Whether it is the land of fire or Konoha, a batch of fresh blood is needed to join in order to maintain their current status. This is also the purpose of ninjas. First of all, the first task is to organize 3 students in his class to carry out the task of wild survival exercise. Before the task begins, remember to emphasize the difficulties of the task to the students. For example, out of 30 graduates, only 10 will be recognized as shinobi, and the rest will be sent back to school to take the exam next year. Get students serious and don't slack. The wilderness survival exercise is to go to the wild and let your students, within a limited time, such as before 12 o'clock, grab their own bells to cultivate students' ninjutsu use and teamwork. At the same time, through the teacher's display of strength, students can have a certain understanding of the strength of ninjas who have been on the battlefield. You can use people who can't grab the bell and have no food to eat at noon to stimulate the fighting spirit of students. First, complete the wilderness survival exercise to ensure that these graduates carry out their tasks and have the ability to protect themselves when they go to battle. Then start with D-level tasks, C-level tasks. This is the process for veterans of Konoha village to lead newbies. Yi Feng looked at how this process looked so familiar. Let's go see them first. Yi Feng stood outside the classroom door when he heard a soft girl's voice. Oh, Obito, why did you say our teacher hasn't come yet? Quote. Lin, I don't know. This voice should be Uchiha with soil. Huh, maybe you're also helping your grandmother cross the street. Kakashi, what do you mean? Without looking, Kakashi began to despise Obito again. Seriously, the excuse of helping grandma cross the street really sucks. Obito always used this reason to treat everyone as mentally retarded, and it was no wonder that Kakashi despised it. Ahem, hello, I'm your instructor. As soon as Yi Feng came in, he looked at the three children in front of him, and was immediately stunned. This is a little different from what he imagined. The little loli and little brother in front of you are also too young. Do you feel like elementary school students? Up to 5th or 6th grade. Nohara Lin said very obediently for the first time, hello teacher. Quote. She thought to herself, this teacher is a little handsome. Then Obito, who was black-haired and wearing goggles, glanced at Yikaide and pouted, hello teacher. Quote. Obito thought to himself, this guy looks a little stupid like Kakashi. Finally, Kakashi, who wore a mask and only showed his eyes, said, hello teacher. Quote. Ye Feng nodded and said, well, then, let's introduce ourselves first. Quote. The three said in unison, teacher, you come first. Me, my name is Night Maple. It's your turn. Quote. Then, Ye Feng opened the New Shinobi Professor's Guide, and said as it said, talk about what you like, what you hate, or what dreams you have, what interests you have, and so on. Quote. The three looked at Ye Feng and said, teacher, you come first. Quote. Yi Feng was suddenly speechless. I'm a teacher, or are you a teacher? It's your turn to say, starting from left to right. Quote. I'll come first. Obito held up the goggles and said with a proud smile, my name is Uchiha Obito, and my favorite is, the most annoying thing is war. Quote. The dream is to become Hokage. End this war, let our family, let the people in the village, recognize my existence. Quote. Kakashi burst out laughing, just like you as a Hokage. Help the grandmother cross the road, and you can't be a fire shadow for 100 years. Quote. Obito was suddenly furious. Kakashi, what do you mean, are you amazing? Quote. I'm the Uchiha Obito of the Uchiha clan, sooner or later I will surpass you, after my Sharingan eyes open, hum. Kakashi looked at Obito like an idiot. The people of the Uchiha clan are all elites, right? You don't need to write wheel eyes, it should be very strong. Quote. Obito gritted his teeth and said, what do you say? Quote. Lin hurriedly said, okay, don't argue, the teacher is watching. Quote. Yi Feng looked at them with a curious face, there was a taste, it was really double love and double killing. It's your turn, Rin Nohara, right? Lin straightened up and said, yes, sensei, my name is Rin Nohara. Quote. What I like the most is cake, the most annoying is curry rice, my dream is to be a medical ninja and save lives on the battlefield. Quote. Ye Feng nodded and said, well, you can. Quote. This little loli will indeed be the treatment of the 7th class in the future, without this little loli, I am afraid that Obito and Kakashi would have hung up long ago. Nohara Lin nodded sharply and looked at Yi Feng, feeling that this Yikaide teacher was not bad. Then, Yakid looked at Kakashi, who at this time was small and cute, and looked arrogant. Yokade couldn't help but ravage Kakashi's sky-high white hair. Kakashi, it's your turn. Quote. Kakashi angrily pushed Yokade's hand away. Sensei, you messed up my hairstyle. Now that you know my name, I don't need to say anything. Quote. Yi Feng looked at the three little fart children with different expressions in front of him, and suddenly thought of a Hokage eternal mysteries. Who does Lin like? Both sides said that their side was full of ironclad evidence, and Kishimoto's old thief did not make it clear, and there has always been an argument. Now, Yi Feng looked at the three little fart children in front of him and knew the answer. That is, these three little fart children are less than 10 years old, understand a hammer love. Ahem, it's okay, everyone knows each other, you also know me, again, my name is Yi Feng, your future instructor. That's the end of the self-introduction, starting tomorrow. All three looked at Yi Feng. Teacher, what task? Survival drills in the wild. Obito immediately said happily. When we were in school, we often did drills. Quote. Yi Feng smiled and said, this exercise is different because your opponent is me. Quote. Teacher, you said something strange. Quote, quote. Yi Feng smiled hee. Yes, this exercise, you have to be mentally prepared. The elimination rate is more than 66%. Among the 30 graduates of your class, only 10 can pass at most, and the rest will be sent back to school and remodeled, understand? Quote. Obito's eyes widened, Rin was speechless, and Kakashi was silent. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, Konoha Forest, wait at the gate of the ninja third base, don't be late. As soon as Yi Feng's words fell, the person had disappeared, leaving a stunned trio. Lin wiped her eyes and said, Teacher Yi Feng is gone. Quote. Groove, it's like magic. Obito was also very surprised. Kakashi said with disdain, Fool, this is the instantaneous technique. Quote. Kakashi, who do you say is a fool? Lin saw that the two were about to quarrel again, and quickly separated the two again. Don't argue, think about what to do tomorrow. Obito pouted and said, it must have been the teacher who bluffed us, how could it be so exaggerated and eliminate everyone? Quote. I didn't lie to you. Obito jumped up. Ah, teacher, how do you look like a ghost, haunted? Yi Feng laughed and said, Obito, you need to strengthen your guts, I forgot to remind you just now, don't forget to bring your ninja tools, and don't eat breakfast, otherwise don't blame me for not reminding you if you vomit. Quote. As soon as the words fell, Yi Feng slammed and turned into a piece of wood. With a look of surprise, Rin picked up the wood that had fallen on the ground. Kakashi said in a deep voice, this is a stand-in technique, what suddenly appeared just now was teacher Yi Feng's stand-in. Quote. Who do you think Lin likes? Yi Feng, you came back so early. Yi Feng nodded and gave Ju Shinai a touch of the head to kill. Nasty. Ju Shinai shyly pushed away Yi Feng's demon hand and said, have you seen your student? Quote. Yokade said as he changed his shoes, well, one is called Obito, one is called Rin, and the last one is called Kakashi. Quote. Kakashi, I know, is a teenage genius, son of the White Fang. Yi Feng was suddenly curious, you actually know. Quote. HMPH, of course I know, you think I don't know anything. Ju Shinai was like a kitten, standing obediently in front of Yi Feng. Let's go inside. Yi Feng naturally took Ju Shinai's little hand. Ju Shinai was a little shy, but did not break free. What about the other two? One is from the Uchiha family, and the other is from the surname Nohara. Yi Feng, your students are all very good, a son of White Fang, a member of the Uchiha family. Well, it's pretty strong. Yi Feng nodded, and as soon as he came in, he heard Tsunade say with a big grin, hey, boy, you haven't proposed to Ju Shinai yet, don't be pretentious, okay. Quote. Ju Shinai retracted his hand shyly, Yi Feng really wanted to beat Tsunade. Tsunade said again, how can we say that Ju Shina is also the next person of the Uzumaki clan, Zhu Li, and her other half, how can I say that I have to endure it? Quote. Yi Kaide suddenly smiled, and at this time, Uzumaki Mito walked out. Yi Feng, he is already a Shangnin, were you sleeping during the meeting yesterday? Tsunade's eyes widened, what? Did he put up with it? Our rules in Konoha, when didn't it come step by step? He hasn't even advanced to the middle ninja, how can he advance to the upper ninja? The 3 generations of adults agreed. Quote. Uzumaki Mito ignored Tsunade, looked at Yorikide and said, come in and eat. Quote. While eating, Tsunade was still indignant, saying that Yokade had broken Konoha's rules for years. Yi Feng suddenly smiled and said, rules are established by people, and naturally people break them, this is not normal. Quote. Tsunade still looked unhappy, and at this time, the big snake pill suddenly appeared. Tsunade, hurry to the hospital, there is an emergency. When Tsunade heard this, he immediately left without eating. Saving people is always the first priority of the medical team. Yi Feng's ears moved, and he vaguely heard Orochimaru say to Tsunade that something had happened over there in the Mist-Hidden Village. Mist-Hidden Village. Yi Kaide immediately thought of the three-tailed incident that led to Rin's death. At that time, it was Madara who conspired with the three generations of Mizukage to inject the three tails into Rin's body, turn Rin into a three-tailed human pillar force, and then send Rin back to Konoha, intending to let Rin destroy Konoha. This plan was killed by Kakashi himself by killing Rin. This had to make Yifeng think of the revenant of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Madara. Just when Yifeng was slightly distracted, Jushinai clipped a piece of meat to Yifeng. Yifeng, this is your first time leading a class, you have to think hard about how to train them tomorrow. Quote. Yifeng nodded and said, I know, Jushinai. Quote. But I thought in my heart, I am afraid that it is the beginning of the Third Ninja World War. Actually, it has arrived, but not many people have found it. Otherwise, there is no need for children like Kakashi, Obito, and Rin to grow up quickly. The 20-year peace agreement signed between Tuanzang and Union may have stunned the eyes of many people. But Yifeng didn't believe that such a peace agreement would work. The next day, Yifeng was still sleeping, and he was suddenly woken up again. What for? Yifeng wiped his eyes. His sleepy eyes were hazy, but he still took a closer look at the comber, so as not to recognize the wrong person. It's Jushinai. Jushinai crossed his waist angrily and said, Yifeng, how many times have I called you, are you still sleeping? What time is it, and you're going to be late for the agreed time with your student? Quote. Yifeng yawned and said, what time is it, no hurry. Quote. After washing his face and coming back, Jushinai was still urging Yifeng, hurry up, I'm really going to be late. Quote. Jushinai didn't know why Yifeng was so lazy. However, Yifeng looked at Jushinai and suddenly grabbed Jushinai's hand. What for? Jushinai suddenly blushed. Yi Kaide thought and thought about it last night, mainly at dinner. Tsunade's words touched Yifeng. The girl is thin-skinned, and he, as a man, should take the initiative. Jushinai, I like you, will you marry me? Jushinai suddenly blushed, and looked at Yifeng with beautiful eyes and said, are you proposing? Quote. Yifeng was stunned when he heard Jushinai's words. Isn't this a marriage proposal? Jushinai looked at Yifeng's silent appearance, and his heart was huffing. This would. Did you propose like that? People propose marriage with rings, at least a bouquet of flowers. I promised him this, wouldn't it be too frivolous? Yifeng pondered and said, well, Jushinai, I'm just proposing to you now, promise me, okay. Quote. Jushinai looked at Yifeng's appearance, couldn't help but smile, poked Yifeng's arm and said, you would. Can't you just send a flower? Quote. Yifeng's eyes lit up and patted his head. Oh, look at my head, it's stupid. As soon as the words fell, there was a bang behind him, a doppelganger appeared, and immediately ran outside the house. After a while, the doppelganger rushed back with a bouquet of roses. Jushinai smiled, took the rose, looked at Yifeng, and said coquettishly, HMPH, I promised you. Quote. Then he said, but you have to get Grandma Mito's permission, she is my elder. Quote. At this time, Uzumaki Mito walked out of the room and said with a smile, I agree. Quote. Kushina walked up to Uzumaki Mito coquettishly, grabbed Uzumaki Mito and said, Grandma Mito, you eavesdropped on us. Quote. Uzumaki Mito looked at Kushina and yoked lovingly and said, seeing that the two of you can walk together, I, as an elder, am really gratified. Quote. Your marriage is so decided. Jushinai suddenly lowered his head shyly, but he didn't expect that he would marry Yifeng like this. Yifeng's heart was also suddenly filled with a special joy. Is this love? At the same time, there is an indescribable sense of responsibility. He's going to marry his daughter-in-law. No matter what, don't give up. Suddenly, Jushinai exclaimed softly, Yifeng, you left quickly, you are going to be late. In the Konoha forest, at the gate of the third base of the ninja, 3 children sat in one place, looking in the direction of Konoha village, and had been waiting for an hour. Rin, we've all been waiting for an hour, this nasty guy hasn't come yet. Lin also puffed out her mouth and said, yes, it's really untrustworthy. Quote. Kakashi glanced at Obito and said, it's not reliable than you, a guy who is late every day. Quote. Obito was suddenly upset. Kakashi, what do you say? Quote. Oh, you guys seem to be full of energy. Yefeng was in a very happy mood today, with a smile on his face. Obito, Rin and Kakashi looked at Yokade's smile, but were frightened. Old, good teacher. Well, it's good, it looks like you're full of energy, so let's go in. The three of them all slandered Yefeng in their hearts, and this teacher looked too unreliable. In the Konoha forest, Yokade is explaining the rules to Kakashi, Obito, and Rin. That is, we just need to grab the bell from you, teacher, even if we win, right? Yifeng nodded and said, it's like this, whoever performs the worst won't have to eat lunch. Quote. Ha, Obito screamed, with a sense of foreboding. Then, you have 2 hours. So let's get started. Before the words fell, a sharp sound of bitterness cutting through the air immediately sounded. It was Kakashi who threw out the kunai. Ah, Yifeng pinched Ku-Wu with his hand, and said with a smile, it's not bad. Quote. After speaking, Kakashi had disappeared and appeared behind Yokade, and Kumu rushed towards Yokade. Obito was stunned, and his body trembled slightly. And Lin next to her covered her small mouth, her eyes were light. However, in the next second, Night Maple suddenly appeared behind Kakashi. Kakashi's eyes widened, instantaneous technique. Quote. Without reacting, Kakashi was immediately grabbed by his left leg and hung upside down. Kakashi did not give up, grabbing the bell around Yokade's waist with his hand, while the kunai of his other hand was also inserted into Yokade. Not bad, don't be afraid. Yokade turned his head sideways, dodged Kakashi's kunai, and threw Kakashi out directly. Oops, Kakashi smashed directly on Obito, and the two rolled on the ground together. What is a ninja? You two are watching the hilarious one, do you want to be a ninja cheerleader, specifically cheering up? Quote. When Rin heard Yifeng's words, she was stunned for a moment, and reacted, Kakashi, Obito, we can't go it alone, we have to cooperate together. Quote. Yefeng looked at Lin with satisfaction, nodded and said, girls are still smarter. Quote. When Lin heard Yifeng's praise, a smile appeared on her face. Kakashi stood up, patted the dust on his body, and fell silent. Obito also got up, and couldn't help but pout, but there are only 2 bells. How do we work together? Quote. We are desperate together, but there is no one to eat. Lin immediately said, we can share it and eat. Quote. Yefeng looked at Rin appreciatively, the leader of the 7th class. Kakashi is powerful and arrogant, looks down on his teammates, and always wants to do it himself. And Obito is inferior and cowardly, always complaining about the current situation and not thinking about how to solve the problem. Only Rin was able to join the entire squad together at this time. Then, come again, I don't need any ninjutsu, let's grab the bell. However, after 2 hours, Obito was so tired that he couldn't stand up straight, and pouted, teacher, you are specialized in physical skills. Quote. The 3 of them in these 2 hours, don't say grab the bell, even if they haven't touched it. Obito felt that Yefeng would not specialize in physical arts, so he didn't need ninjutsu. On the other side, Kakashi was kicked off again, smashed to the ground and got up again. Idiot, Obito suddenly became angry. Did I say something wrong? Quote. He's Senju Kaide, the successor of the original Hokage bloodline. The original Hokage is a physical specialty. Are you here to be funny? Quote. Kakashi's series of words smashed Obito. What the? Thousand hands Night Maple, is our teacher so good? Rin, as a child of a civilian family, originally did not know the identity of Night Maple, and hearing Kakashi say this, her eyes were full of adoration when she looked at Night Fang. The original Hokage, in the hearts of everyone in Konoha, is the supreme ninja god. As his bloodline inheritor, he is naturally also high. Yifeng cried and laughed. Wait, my name is Yifeng, not Chinsho. Quote. Kakashi was dumbfounded. Sensei, aren't you from the Senju family? Yifeng smiled and said, why do children care so much, just call me teacher Yifeng in the future. Quote. Just as Night Maple was speaking, another Kakashi suddenly appeared behind Night Kaide. Doppelganger. Both Rin and Obito had happy faces. Seeing that Kakashi was about to grab the bell, the next second, Rin and Obito's eyes were about to pop out, and Kakashi next to them slammed and disappeared. This Kakashi who spoke was a doppelganger, while the real body was pressed to the ground by Yokade. Ah, when did you use the doppelganger technique? Yes, you will be a doppelganger at a young age. Yokade quickly let go of Kakashi and said with a smile, well done, you are a class first, and then a ninja, only as a team can reduce casualties in real missions, wars. Quote. Strength is important, but teamwork can make 1 + 1 greater than 2. Complementary strengths can often turn the tide of war. On the contrary, the shortcomings of the team often become the breakthrough point of the enemy. For example, Yi Feng said, and a small tree root suddenly appeared under the feet of the three. Kakashi's eyes widened, and he immediately jumped back, be careful. Quote. Lin also retreated as soon as possible. Only Obito had a puzzled face. What? Before Obito could react, he was dragged to Yi Feng's face by a small tree root. Ah! Yi Feng squatted down, flicked Obito's forehead, smiled and said, look, this is the team's shortcoming. Quote. Shortcomings are often fatal, such as, now, you are on a mission, you have secrets on your body, and you have been arrested with soil. Quote. Rin, Kakashi, tell your secrets. Otherwise, Obito will be dead. Quote. Ah! Kakashi rolled his eyes. Yi Feng smiled and said, I'm just using an analogy, at this time, you must make a painful choice. Quote. To give up a companion for the sake of the village, or to give up this mission for the sake of this companion, will cause the village to suffer huge losses and more people to die. Obito was ashamed and embarrassed, and he was still hard-mouthed. Teacher, this is not fair, you take advantage of my lack of attention to strike. Quote. Moreover, you said that you don't need ninjutsu, and you also use ninjutsu. Kakashi. Idiot. Yi Feng smiled and said, is there anything fair and unfair on the battlefield? Only those who survived, and lost heroes. Quote. Remember the hero monument at the door. Those are all dead heroes, put a name on it. Quote. Do you think they will say before they die, it's not fair, and the enemy will take advantage of my lack of attention? The intelligence is obviously lower forbearance, how can it be more powerful than upper patience? The intelligence is fake, so I died. Quote. When everyone heard Yi Feng's words, their faces changed. Obito, if you don't want to be a burden to your teammates, then practice more, don't always think about opening the chakra. Others usually use 5 hours of training, you use 10 hours of training, others use 10 hours of training, you should use 20 hours of training, originally the talent is not good, don't immerse yourself in your fantasy all day. War is far more brutal than you think. And it's not far from you. If you don't want to die, don't want to drag down your companions, and don't want to bring shame to your family, then practice hard. Then, Yi Feng cried when he saw Obito. He scolded the boss and cried. Chapter 31. Konoha Village, a training ground in Uchiha's territory. As the setting sun shines, a child is covered in sweat and practicing sealing. Doppelganger. Bang. After a cloud of white smoke came out, nothing appeared. Ah, failed again. Obito scratched his head and yelled. Why can teacher Yi Feng's doppelganger technique be fake? Why can Kakashi's doppelganger be so proficient? Why don't you succeed? Today, Yi Feng's words, give him a drink. He fantasized about becoming a genius, a blockbuster, becoming a Hokage, and being proud of the ninja world. However, the truth is that he is a man with no talent. He thought about deceiving himself, but today, he couldn't deceive. And from time to time, people from the Uchiha clan cast strange eyes. That's Obito, training so hard. It's a pity that my parents died early. Without the teaching of parents, it is still a lot worse. I heard that he came back crying today. I'm afraid I failed, and I have to go back to the furnace to reform. There was a burst of discussion, accompanied by some disdainful glances. Obito's shoulders trembled slightly, and he roared angrily, I'm not a waste. Quote. With a wave of hatred, he returned home with soil. Grandma greeted her, bring soil, come back, let's eat. Quote. Don't eat. Obito closed the door directly and couldn't leave the room, and began to frantically push ups. 197, 198, 199, 200. Obito gritted his teeth and continued to do it, the sweat of his whole body dripped on the ground, and the ground was wet. In the end, the whole person smashed to the ground, but what Yefeng said sounded in his mind. You, drag down companions, bring shame on the family. Obito gritted his teeth and got up to continue practicing. At Nohara Rin's house, her parents said with a smile on their faces, Rin, say so, you are putting up with it now. Quote. Lin nodded and said, yes, that Night Maple teacher is actually quite good. By the way, Dad, Mom, have you heard of Night Maple teacher? Quote. Night Maple. No, what's wrong Lin? Quote. Lin held her chin with her small hand, and Yifeng's hearty smile appeared in her mind. Listen to Kakashi. Yokade-sensei is a powerful character. Awesome character. Then you have to study more with teacher Yefeng. Quote. Lin nodded obediently. Kakashi was at home, eating instant noodles by himself, and his father was not home today, so he should be busy with official business. In his mind, he recalled what Yefeng had said to them at that time. This Yefeng teacher is not reliable, or is he too indulgent with students? It is really amazing that Uchiha can pass the level with a skill like Obito. At this time, Yefeng was eating, and in addition to Uzumaki Mito and Kushina, there were also Tsunade. As soon as he sat down, Tsunade complained that the medical department was too busy and almost did not have time to sleep. Then he talked about the riot in the mist-hidden village, which caused many low-level ninjas over there to be injured or even killed. The many undercover agents arranged by Konoha over there also fled because of this riot. Many died directly on the road. Those who were able to return to Konoha were all seriously injured. So these days, Tsunade is too busy to sleep. Yorikide pricked up his ears and listened to these news that he could barely see the information above Konoha. Mist-hidden village, the most famous is the Blood Mist, but Yefeng doesn't know why it is called Blood Mist. Is it simply his own people killing his own people? Tsunade gave the answer. Kirihide village was originally like us in Konoha, everyone is equal, but after 3 generations of Mizukage came to power, the policy guidelines have gradually changed. The indigenous noble clans of this village, as well as the various Shangnin families who created military merits in the war, became the highest-ranking nobles. Those small families that were annexed by the Misty Hidden Village, including the blood succession limit, ordinary families, became civilians. These civilians, performing the most dangerous tasks, are purely tools, not even dogs. As for the Blood Mist no Sato, that means that the lower ninja exam of the Mist Hidden Village must kill one of his classmates. Of course, this is also an exam that only commoners will go through, and nobles do not need it. Then those civilians are not satisfied and they are about to riot. Then, I heard that it was the upper echelons of Wuin village who sent 7 ninja swords to bloodily suppress it, and the entire Wuin village was shrouded in bloody terror. The 7 shinobi swords. Yifeng finally heard the knowledge he understood. However, the 7 people of the ninja knife mentioned by Tsunade are Loquat Juzo, Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost, Kuriki Shotwashiromaru, Sukusa Wild Bateman, No Pair Shinichi, Black Ho Thunder Tooth, and Ghost Lantern Senkaku. Yefeng didn't know any of them. How come there is no mahogany anymore not chopped in it? Then, Tsunade added, now the teacher is planning to send several teams of ninjas to the vicinity of the village of Kirihi, and it should be Jiraiya, an idiot, as the commander-in-chief. Quote. Yifeng asked curiously, isn't Zilai also the principal? Why do you have to go out on a mission? Quote. Tsunade looked at Yokade with idiotic eyes and said, ninja school, that is, to train ninjas who can go out on missions, and to endure the principal of the school, as the commander-in-chief of the mission, isn't it normal? Quote. This mission should not be for us to endure the students of the school. Quote. Tsunade shrugged and said, I heard that this is the meaning, mainly because there are not enough people now, and there have been many border disputes recently, and almost all of them have been dispatched. Quote. When necessary, as a freshman of shinobi, he will also go to the battlefield. Tsunade glanced at Yifeng with disdain. Judging by your greed for life and fear of death, even if the administrative department arranges the task here, it will not be arranged on your head. Quote. Uzumaki Mito glanced at Tsunade and said, Tsunade-heim, don't let the administration department arrange tasks for Yokade, in this case, don't say anything more in the future. Quote. Tsunade looked at Uzumaki Mito and said, Grandma, you still want Yokade out on a mission. Anyway, I don't agree, even if Yefeng wants to go out on a mission, at least wait until Ju Shinai has a child. Quote. Yefeng was dumbfounded. Is it so direct? How does it sound like I've become a stallion? Wait until Ju Shinai has a child before I can go out on a mission. Tsunade's words were too much in line with Yikaide's heart. Ju Shinai's face turned blushing shyly, fidgeting, and glared at Yifeng. How could Tsunade's sister say such a thing? Quote exclamation mark quote. Uzumaki Mito looked at Tsunade and said, if you do this, what will others think of a Senju clan? Quote. The foundation of our Konoha is that the village is the first, everyone is a member of the village, and there is no specialization. Besides, Knight Maple is the Hokage in the future. He said that he would not be a Hokage, and that he would let Ju Shinai be a Hokage. Quote. Can you be called Hokage if you retreat when you encounter a mission like this? Tsunade pouted and said, HMPH, it's better than dying. Quote. You still think that the death of the rope tree and the broken is not an accident. I don't know if it's an accident, but I don't want another accident, no matter what. He is also the only remaining male member of our Thousand Hands clan. Yokade was also a little confused. Wasn't Tsunade very dissatisfied with himself before? How suddenly, I leaned to my side again. Tsunade was still unconvinced and said, besides, with Yokade's current strength, as long as the teacher retires, with the support of me and your grandmother, he will definitely be able to become a Hokage. Quote. Fool around, do you think the strength is strong, and it is okay to have the support of our family? You are still so naive. Quote. Yefeng was also a little puzzled by Uzumaki Mito's words. Uzumaki Mito explained, Naruto, all the ninjas in our village, selected together. Quote. It's not that he is the strongest to be able to become Hokage, but everyone in our village recognizes him in their hearts in order to become Hokage. When Yifeng heard this, a trace of essence flashed in his eyes, and he realized it slightly. Tsunade, back then, Uchiha wanted to be a Hokage, why didn't it succeed? Is he not strong? Uchiha's strength was not weaker than what you wanted at that time, but why did your grandfather inherit the position of Hokage? Quote. This is not the operation of our Thousand Hands clan, but the choice of the entire village. Even the Uchiha clan itself is not optimistic about Uchiha spots. You still think that as long as you are the strongest. When Yifeng heard these words, he suddenly realized. When I used to watch Hokage, many questions were solved at once. Why didn't Orochimaru become Hokage? Was it really the 3 generations of Hokage who single-handedly chose the Water Gate? I'm afraid that there are not many people in Konoha who want a beast-like person like Orochimaru to become Hokage, right? It is the desire of the human heart to become a Hokage. It's subtle. Tsunade pouted and said, Grandma, I know all this, what does that have to do with what I said? Quote. You let Yefeng not accept the task, what do others think of him, what do they think of our Thousand Hands clan? And the face to compete for the position of Hokage. Quote. Of course, it's still too early to say this, Yifeng, you better accumulate battle merits first, and get acquainted with all the upper ninja in the village. Is it still early? Not early at all. Everyone thought that peace would continue, but in the near future, a new round of ninja wars would break out. After that great battle, Sarutobi will abdicate and make way for the 4th generation of Shion. At that time, it was time for Yefeng to help Ju Shinai compete for the position of the 4th generation. Grandma, arrange it as you want, I don't want to bother. Then Tsunade said about Yokade's proposal to Ju Shinai. You are really embarrassed, a flower wants to marry our family Ju Shinai. Quote. Tsunade Soup Sama. Ju Shinai exhaled softly, and her face turned red. At this time, Ji Lai also came. He still had a bandage on his face, which he had hit last time. Night Maple. Yifeng heard that he had also come to find himself, and immediately had a premonition. Himself going to war. Yefeng was not afraid at all, but there was a faint expectation in his heart. Tsunade interrupted Jiraiya's words. Jiraiya, you come to judge. Yefeng proposed to my sister Ju Shinai, is one flower enough? Quote. Zilai also touched the side of his face that was bandaged, and said with a forehead, I think it's okay. Before the words fell, Tsunade punched Jiraiya. Ah! Zilai also flew directly out of the small courtyard. Bang! There was a loud bang outside. 10 minutes later, Zilai also sat in front of Yifeng, with bandages wrapped around both cheeks, and he almost couldn't recognize him. Yifeng, I came here because there is a mission coming. Is it a mission over there in Wuyin village? Zilai also nodded and said, yes, it seems that you are still quite well informed. It is like this, the riot over there in the misty hidden village has led to the flight of a large number of civilian ninjas. Quote, the bloody suppression of the Ninja Dao 7 makes the civilian ninjas over there very dangerous. Yifeng said curiously, let's go and save them. Quote, Zilai also shook his head and said, we don't have the spare power to save all people, our mission this time is to save one person. Quote, this person is very important, she is a little girl, she has 2 blood succession boundaries at a young age. 2 blood succession limits, who this girl is, has already come out. A 6-year-old girl who knows the 2 blood succession limits, her name is Terumi. We have to save Terumi before the chase over there in Wuyin village. According to the intelligence, she may be in this area, and we need to send 3 classes of ninjas to search there. Yifeng's eyes widened, 3 classes. Is our latest graduating class. Quote. Jiraiya nodded, but they didn't do anything. Zilai also said in a deep voice, yes, they have indeed not done any tasks, and this mission can also be regarded as their opening exam from lower patients to middle patients. Quote. The commander of this mission is Yifeng Yu. Me. Zilai also nodded and said, yes, as a member of the Thousand Hands clan, you naturally have to be the commander. Quote. Yifeng was stunned for a moment and said, what about Watergate? Quote. Watergate and I have other missions. Jiraiya patted Ye Kaide's shoulder. Don't worry too much, you won't meet any Shangnan, because we will attract all of them. This time, the task of our graduating freshmen is to search, in this forest area, to find Terumi. Okay. Since he also said so, Yifeng was also obligated to take this task. Just as Yifeng sent Jiraiya away, thinking about how he would complete the task this time, the voice of the system suddenly sounded in his mind. Ding, congratulations to the host strength for reaching the shadow level. Yifeng was slightly stunned, and quickly opened the properties. Name, Yifeng, Strength, Shadow, Position, Special Shinobi. Character card. SSS level Senju Pillar, Fusion Degree 50%. Blood Succession Boundary. God level Mudden, character card comes with it. Ninjutsu. Flying Thunder God Art LV3, Dirt Reincarnation LV3, Thunder Thousand Birds LV3, Omorinhua LV3, Yin Seal LV3, Baihao no Jutsu LV3, 4 Elephant Seal LV3, Ghoul Seal LV3, Harem Art LV3, Shuriken Shadow Doppelganger Art LV3. There is also a supreme package that has not been opened. Yifeng's mind has been on the marriage proposal Ju Shinai in the past few days, and he has forgotten that there is still a supreme gift package that has not been opened. Ding, open the supreme gift pack. Congratulations to the host for obtaining S-class character card, Uzumaki Ashina. Uzumaki Ashina, the village chief of the Uzumaki Hidden Village, and the patriarch of the Uzumaki clan. He is good at using sealing, and his sealing skills are very masterful, and he is known as the ancestor of Konoha's sealing technique. Yifeng's eyes were about to pop out. Uzumaki Ashina. The shadow-level powerhouse of the original era. It was also because of him that the other shinobi villages were terrified of the Uzumaki clan's sealing technique. Therefore, after his death, many countries and ethnic groups launched an invasion of the country of Whirlpool, resulting in the tragic destruction of the country of Whirlpool. The surviving Uzumaki people are incognito and scattered around the world. This character card cannot be used for the time being, because the character card between the Thousand Hand Pillars has not been fully integrated. When the character cards between the Thousand Hand Pillars are fully fused with 100%, you can fuse this Vortex Ashi character card and learn all the sealing techniques of the Vortex family. At that time, can you seal a nine-tailed play? The next morning, Yokade had just arrived at the ninja school, and the other 2 teachers on the mission had already arrived. Yifeng-kun, you are here. Yifeng was slightly stunned, but he didn't expect that one of the Naka shinobi who led the team this time turned out to be Makoto. After thinking about Konoha's 12 Xiaoqiang, Sakura, Hinata, and Tenten, who are girls, also have to perform tasks before getting married and having children. Jiraiya also mentioned a little last night. Recently the borders of various countries have begun to be chaotic again, as one of the 5 powers, various conflicts have also begun around the Land of Fire, and all of Konoha's upper shinobi have gone out. Therefore, the leaders of this mission, except for Yifeng, who is particularly shinobi, are all Zongnin teachers. In this way, Makoto's role as a middle ninja class is also a normal thing. And if Yokade remembers correctly, Makoto personally trained the 2 brothers Itachi and Sasuke to shuriken, which shows that he still has some strength. Makoto looked at Yikaide quietly, and was very curious in her heart what kind of strength Yikaide was, and let Lord Jiraiya entrust the command with the heavy task. You know, the mission commander on the other side, but a genius like Watergate. Another teacher, named Haruno Zhao, also greeted Yifeng respectfully. The last bloodline of the Senju clan has been rumored in Konoha these days, and almost everyone above the middle ninja has heard of the name of Yifeng. The power of one person pressed the 3 elders of Konoha, forcing 2 people to take leave, and 1 person to leave. Not many people know the details, and everyone is very curious about Yifeng. Haruno Zhao, Yifeng asked curiously, Zhao-sensei, do you have a daughter named Sakura? Quote. Haruno Zhao hurriedly said, Teacher Yifeng, don't talk nonsense, I'm not married yet, and you will cause misunderstanding if you say this. Quote. Haha, sorry ha. Yikaide remembered that it was too early to ask Sakura at this time, right? Let's go then. They agreed with the students to meet at the eastern entrance of Konoha Forest, 10 kilometers from Konoha village. If the student didn't even have the ability to cross the Konoha Forest alone, then there was no need to go out on a mission at all, it was pure death. Yokade and Makoto, as well as Haruno Akira, soon arrived at the eastern entrance and exit of the Konoha Forest. Yokade glanced at it. In addition to Kakashi and Rin from his 7th class, there was another class of Kai, Ebisu, who didn't know that Hoganma had arrived. Rin said politely, Hello Yokade-sensei, Makoto-sensei, and Haruno-sensei. Quote. When Makoto saw Rin, she came up happily, touched Rin's head and said, Rin, you're here too. Quote. Well, I'm in the 7th shift. Kakashi Tsunade. Teacher, that idiot brought soil, it seems that he is going to be late again today. Quote. Yifeng smiled and said, It's okay, wait first. Quote. Soon, the 3 classmates of Makoto's class also arrived, and Yifeng was not impressed. The 8 children looked at Yifeng and the other 2 teachers in unison. Because the time for departure has come, however, Obito has not yet arrived. Yifeng waved his hand and said, 2 of you, you guys go first, I'll wait for my students later. Quote. Makoto hurriedly said, It's okay, we can all wait. Quote. Yes, Teacher Yifeng, it's still time. Yifeng shook his head and said, No need, if we go together, the goal on the road is too big. Quote. We went to pick up people this time to avoid the people of Wuin village, so the smaller your target, the safer. It's best to go it separately. Then, Yifeng took out 2 talismans. This is my special talisman, for you, keep safe. Quote. Makoto and Haruno Zhao both took Yorikide's amulet curiously, is this useful? 10 minutes later, Makoto and Haruno Akira had led their teammates to leave, leaving only Yokade, Kakashi, and Rin waiting. Suddenly, a figure flew out of the woods and smashed on the ground. You don't need to look at it, it's Obito who is late again. Kakashi crouched down in front of Obito and said, You're late again, Obito. Quote. Yifeng interrupted Obito's words, smiled and said, Okay, no need to explain, let's go, we are going to the country of water, Wuin village, the road is still very long. Lin smiled and said, Obito, you look excited. Whatever. Obito said no, but the body was very honest. He was really excited because it was the first time he had left the village. Idiot. Kakashi, you're calling me an idiot again. Okay, you 2 don't argue, now on a mission. Obito snorted, walked in the front and said, What a task, it's been a day, and the birds haven't seen a single one. Quote. Yifeng walked slowly, the corners of his mouth slightly upturned. There are no birds, but there are 2 people. In the woods, 2 masked ninjas, staring at the 4 people passing by. Their forehead badge shows that they are ninjas from the village of Mist. 3 children, so young as to endure. It seems that Konoha's personnel emergency problem is already very serious, even the students of the ninja school came out for the mission so early. This is not something we should pay attention to, we should immediately bring the news back to Lord Loquat Juzo. Wait a minute, just 3 children, plus a kid with no information, they all just went to the battlefield, we took them down, and it will be a great credit to go back. Isn't that right? What's so bad? If you're so afraid of death, what kind of ninja are you going to be? Capture them back, maybe you can know Konoha's deployment, that is a great achievement. Quote. Well, in this way, the 2 ninjas of the mist-hidden village reached a consensus. The 3 of the 7th class walked through the sunny path, and there was a large pool of water in front of them. Yi Feng's eyes flashed, and he followed the 3 of the 7th class over. At the moment Ye Feng walked over, 2 figures appeared in the water traces, which were the 2 mist shinobi who were lurking just now. They suddenly burst out and divided the corpse of Yi Feng. The 3 people of the 7th class were directly frightened. Then, they suddenly appeared behind Obito. You are the second target. They also didn't expect that they would solve the only adult ninja so easily, and this ninja was too weak, right? Obito's eyes widened, and he was so scared that he couldn't move his body, seeing that they were going to tear Obito to shreds. Kakashi suddenly appeared in front of the 2 of them, kicked them away, and pulled the crumbling away. Obito's whole body knelt on the ground, and his heart was full of fear. Killed, dead, doppelganger. Kakashi froze and immediately separated into 2 doppelgangers. The 2 licked their lips and said, ouch, such a young doppelganger. It's a genius ninja in Konoha, and I like killing genius ninjas the most. Quote. Lin was also full of horror, but still threw Kuwu at the 2. Bang. Kuwu directly knocked out. Yo, and such a cute little sister, I like it, haha. Kakashi split into 3 and rushed towards the 2. Find death. Suddenly, a vine appeared on their feet and tied them. Huh, what is it? Quote. Bang, bang. Kakashi's 2 doppelgangers were instantly torn apart. And Kakashi himself widened his eyes, and the Kiri Shinobu on the opposite side, the kunai in his hand, was about to stab his own neck. And his own suffering is not far from the other party's heart, it is a little far. Still failed. At this moment, Kirito's hand was entangled in vines that suddenly appeared, and Kuma wiped Kakashi's face over. And Kakashi's bitterness went straight to the other party's heart. Ah! Kiri Shinobu's eyes widened, looked at Kakashi, and sat down directly. Kakashi's heart beat faster and he quickly retreated. Killed yourself. At this time, a round of applause appeared behind them. Congratulations, Kakashi, on your first successful killing. This is a ninja's rite of passage. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice, and Ye Feng stood quietly with a smile. What? How is he still alive? Quote. The only remaining mist shinobu eyes were about to pop out. And the 3 people of the 7th class, looking at Ye Feng, who suddenly appeared, all widened their eyes. Kakashi. Lin. Ah, teacher Ye Feng is not dead. Quote. Obito. Ah, it turned out to be a stand-in. Quote. Ye Feng smiled and said, why, isn't it a surprise? And what about the Misty Shinobi, don't solve him. Quote. When Kakashi heard this, he immediately looked at the other Kiri Shinobu. Kiri shouted and threw countless shurikens at them. Bang, 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 bang. All the shurikens were blocked by the roots that suddenly appeared. Kakashi's eyes shrank. This is the legendary Mudden. Quote. The teacher is so handsome, Rin's eyes lit up. Obito. Kakashi has already opened the meat. Then it will be your turn to take the soil. You, as the other boy in the class, now give you a task to kill him. Obito's eyes were about to pop out. What? Quote. What do you do with me? Can you be called a ninja without killing? Quote. It's tied up like this, if you can't kill it, then you better go home. Ah, gauging. Obito was lying on the ground, crying and vomiting, and the Misty Shinobu had fallen in a pool of blood. Lin, who was not far away, couldn't help but vomit, with tears in her eyes. Kakashi was silent, and finally couldn't help but gag a little, and then complained, Obito, can you simply and neatly stab him for more than 10 minutes before stabbing him to death? Quote. Ye Feng was also speechless. Obito was really weak, but in the end he completed the task. After this bloody baptism, they should not continue to be in a daze on the battlefield. But looking at these children, isn't it a little too anxious? However, Obito raised his head, and those eyes, blood red inside, were 2 hooks of jade rotating around the pupils. Riding wheel eyes. Groove. Ye Feng was also stunned. Obito was so stimulated by himself that he opened his eyes. Kakashi was still thinking about continuing to complain, but when he saw Obito's eyes, he was also stunned for a moment, and his heart was shocked. Did Teacher Yefeng deliberately let Obito open the Sharingan? The image of Yefeng in Kakashi's heart suddenly became tall. Lin said with a worried face, "Obito, it's nothing, right?" Quote. "What's nothing? Obito himself is still in the dark. Wait until Obito himself on himself to take a picture of himself to know that he opened the chakra eye. No wonder, I was able to see the flow of chakra. This is the Sharingan." Quote. Kakashi next to him couldn't help but envy. "I heard that Sharingan can do illusions, will you?" Quote. Obito snorted and said arrogantly, "Of course." Quote. "Then you use it to see. HMPH, I'm afraid you will faint if you use it, don't use it first." Yefeng rolled his eyes, really a little fart who likes to brag. "I have to say, is it really the son of luck, so it can also open your eyes?" The three of the 7th class were noisy, and finally came to the border of the Fire Nation. In front of you is a bay with a bridge connecting the two ends. On the opposite side of the bridge is the territory of the Land of Water. The Land of Water is a group of islands near the eastern side of the continent, the Land of Fire. In this way, there are 3 or 4 bridges connecting the Land of Water and the Land of Fire. There was a thick fog on the bridge, and there was a faint red color like blood in it, and 5 fingers could not be seen. It's a bit oozing. This is the horror of the blood mist. No wonder people say that the mist-hidden village is shrouded in blood mist all year round. Lin immediately turned around and said, "Teacher, there is fog on the bridge in front, do you want to go in?" Quote. Yefeng nodded and said, "Yes, if you don't go in, you plan to swim over." Quote. Kakashi said quietly, "But there may be someone up there." Quote. Yifeng said lightly, "What about someone? No matter who, there is no one, you have to go over." Quote. Obito stood up, squinted, looked, and suddenly felt a little dizzy. "There's a guy up front." Lin next to him said happily, "Obito, can you see it?" Quote. "Probably, you can vaguely see the flow of chakra, but it's similar to the 2 fog ninja just now." Saying that, he slipped with his dirt feet and almost fell. "Obito, what's wrong with you?" "It's okay," Yifeng said lightly. "It's okay, don't use so many chakra eyes, be careful of blindness." Quote. "Ha, Teacher Yefeng, don't scare me." Quote. Obito immediately turned pale. "I didn't scare you, it's okay to practice ninjutsu and physical arts more." Before Obito could enjoy the feeling of being a hero, he was stimulated by Yifeng's words and felt that he had fallen to the bottom. He thought to himself that Yefeng must have lied to him, he had never heard of blinding with more chakra eyes. Was Yifeng jealous that he opened the Sharingan? In fact, Yefeng didn't remember the details very clearly, but he felt that he should remember correctly. Moreover, along the way just now, Yifeng probably also knew that there was no one to guide, and Obito now opened the Sharingan, that is, the role of a sentinel, to see if there was a flow of chakra, and then there would be no eggs. As for Kamui, the devil knows when Obito will comprehend it. Where is the enemy? There, right above the bridge. Yifeng rolled his eyes. You just say it, why are you pointing, you don't scare people away like this. Quote. Kakashi. Idiot. Quote. Obito is about to collapse, opened the Sharingan, and was ridiculed. Teacher Yefeng, you are the devil. In between speaking, the thick fog on the bridge gradually cleared. Yefeng shrugged and said, Look, I'm right, you scared people away. Quote. Obito said unconvinced. Teacher, I call this a soldier who submits without a fight. Have you read the Book of Soldiers? Quote. You tell me about the Book of War. Have you seen Sun Tzu's Art of War in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms? Quote. Obito stupid, what is that? He had never heard of it. I haven't seen anything, pretend to be knowledgeable with me, let's go. Yifeng flicked Obito's tender forehead, laughed and left. Just as Yefeng and the others were about to cross the bridge, 3 strange human bodies suddenly drilled out of the ground. Teacher. Quote. The 3 children were shocked when they saw these 3 terrifying white human forms suddenly fuse together and turn into a white weirdo full of spikes. Even Obito, who had just awakened the Sharingan, was so scared that he was on the verge of crying. Yifeng was suddenly speechless. You just killed someone, can you be bold? When you look at the opposite thing, this is not white. On the way out of Konoha, Yokade always felt that something was missing. Now seeing Baiju, Yifeng finally figured it out, and during the time he fused the character card between the 1,000-hand pillars, he was not discovered by that undead of Uchiha. It seems that it is not that it was not discovered, but secretly observed. Baiju can actually fit together. Yifeng was also very surprised and immediately stood up. He was very interested in this kind of thing that he had heard was cultivated by intercolumn cells, and vaguely remembered that Kishimoto had changed the setting later, and Baiju had become the person who fell into the infinite moon reading launched by Kagaya a long time ago. No matter what, Yifeng is very curious. You guys back off, let me come. Kakashi, Obito and Rin watched Night Maple stand up, quickly got out of the way, and all looked at Night Maple. Along the way, they were all very curious about Yifeng's true strength. Now they are very apprehensive in their hearts, and they want to see the true strength of Yifeng, and they are afraid that the white weirdo on the opposite side will kill Yifeng. Teacher, come on. Rin plucked up the courage to cheer Yifeng on. Yifeng took the opportunity to touch his head. Both Kakashi and Obito were speechless. At this time, Baiju was already about to rush over, and the spikes on his body were exposed, very hideous. Shuriken Shadow Doppelganger Art. Yifeng injected chakra into the shuriken in his hand and threw it forward, and then the shuriken shadow appeared tens of thousands of times, shooting at the white Jew in front of him. The 7th class, which was hiding behind Yifeng, looked at the shuriken in the sky, and its mouth grew big. Wow, ooh, I want to learn ninjutsu like this too. Swish, swish, swish. However, all of these shurikens were pierced at Baiju's body, but they did not seem to have any effect. It seems that the physical attack is not very good, and the physical defense on the opposite side is a bit high. But it seems that Baiju is also good at Mu-Duan. Is my Mu-Dun useful? If Mu-Dun is useless, it will be a vicious battle, and you must try to transfer them. Seeing that Bai was about to pounce, Yifeng's figure flashed, and he had already picked up the 3 of the 7th class and retreated. Teacher, can't we beat him? Lin was held by Yifeng, and she was so anxious that she was about to cry. The main thing is that the white weirdo is too ugly. No, you are too weak for fear of hurting you. Yifeng finished speaking, and put them down. At this time, the 7th class found that they had crossed the bridge. A kilometer-long bridge that passed in an instant. This is the strength of the teacher. Kakashi, Obito, and Rin all had shocked expressions. However, in the next second, Yifeng had already appeared in front of Baiju. Oririnhua first style. Yifeng suddenly appeared below Baiju, kicked Baiju's chin, and directly kicked Baiju away. Of course, the next action of Table Lionwa was too strange. It was a binding and a hug, and Yifeng naturally cancelled the next move. The teacher is amazing. Lin's eyes lit up. Kakashi thought to himself, this is Shang Shinobu. Obito couldn't help but say, I will definitely be better than the teacher in the future. Quote. Mu-Dun, Wood Dragon Art. Night Maple naturally would not give Baiju any chance to react, forming a seal, passing chakra to the seeds of the trees, producing a huge dragon, binding Baiju in the air. At the moment when the Wood Dragon Art trapped Baiju, Yifeng felt that the Wood Dragon absorbed a life source from Baiju, in addition to absorbing chakra. It should be the intercolumn cells. Sure enough, white is made of intercolumn cells. In just a few seconds, Baiju was directly sucked by Yifeng, and finally only a pool of clear liquid dripped on the ground, representing that Baiju once existed. The 3 people of the 7th class who were watching the battle from a distance shivered, and Yifeng was too terrifying and directly sucked the opponent white weirdo dry. Yifeng glanced at it, and the fusion degree was already 57.9%, and this white absolute gave him a fusion degree of 0.3%. If you absorb 1000 for him, you can go from 0% to 100% in an instant. Yifeng looked at the water traces on the ground and sighed, a little pity. If nothing is figured out, the white is gone. When Yifeng turned around, he felt that the eyes of the 7th class looking at him were different, and he looked a little scared, and he suddenly cried and laughed. It seems that the situation of sucking Baiju dry just now scared the children. Let's go. Yifeng thought, Baiju has already appeared, will the spots appear? Not very likely. Because the old Uchiha ban was in the Battle of Shenwubi Bridge, he did not dare to appear in front of the Wave Feng Shui Gate. By the time he rescued Obito, they all looked so old that they were about to hang up. It can be seen that there was not much of his strength left at that time. This stage, this time, should be the beginning of the Ninja World War. It should not be too long before the Battle of Shenwubi Bridge, it may be 3 or 5 years, and no more than 10 years at most. In this way, the current Uchiha spot is also in the age spot stage. Even, Yefeng thought deeper, maybe after Yuzebo escaped in suspended animation, he had long been gone, and he was just holding on. Otherwise, why did the Ninja World War I, the Ninja World War II, and when there was such turmoil, Uchiha did not dare to appear as his body? Even if the second generation Senju was seriously injured and died, when Sarutobi took over, Konoha's situation was so chaotic, and Uchiha did not return to Konoha to make trouble. Just dare to engage in small actions and train their successors, Nagato and Obito. I'm afraid that Uchiha is not very confident in his strength and will not come forward in person. At most, send White and Black to test it. The Night Maple is more than 50% fused, and it is definitely not worth it to face age spots. In a cave somewhere, it was extremely dark, and an old man with a broken wind and candle sat on a stone throne, with several huge pipes connected behind him, extending to the huge golem behind him. This old man is Uchiha. Baiju came out of the wall and said, Madara-sama, that Night Maple is very strong. Quote, you mean the one who was recognized by Uzumaki Mito as the last bloodline of the Senju clan? Yes, his strength is very strong, moreover, he can absorb us, and the 3 whites will not be there in 10 seconds. A trace of essence flashed in Uchiha's eyes, he is going to Wuin village. Quote, yes, Baiju, he can absorb 3, do you think 1,000, 10,000? As soon as the words fell, the dark place, just under the outer path golem, the dense white absolute opened his eyes in an instant, at least tens of thousands. Konoha village, Hokage office. Boom, boom, boom. Come in. The door opened and Orochimaru walked in. Teacher, you called me. Ape Fei Chop nodded and said, yes, Great Snake Pill, I want to ask, you have studied Mudun for so long, under what circumstances do you think that the wood dragon art will absorb Baiju completely? Quote. The big snake pill was stunned for a moment and said, Baiju. You mean that white inhuman thing that we caught 5 years ago? Quote. Ape Fei Chopper nodded and said, yes, that thing attacked Yefeng today. Quote. The big snake pill's eyes suddenly lit up, full of radiance. Are you saying that Yifeng's wood dragon technique has absorbed Baiju completely? Quote. Yes, the people of the Ministry of Intelligence said so, and also took a few photos. Saying that, Sarutobi pushed the photo in front of the big snake pill. In these photos, it is obvious that Baiju is shrinking. White absorption, could it be that Baiju's body is the cells of the first generation of adults? Quote. Orochimaru said excitedly. It is very likely that that thing was formed by the cells of the first generation of adults, so that it can explain why it can hide in the land and trees and escape. Quote. It's a pity, it's gone. The big snake pill felt that Baiju's body was full of research value. There may still be. The big snake pill saw the earliest photo again, although the picture was not clear, but he could also see that it was 3 white absolutes. This is a group of conspecifics. Orochimaru was stunned. Then, Sarutobi patted the transparent beaker covered next to him. Here is the last liquid left by Baiju. Quote. The big snake pill's eyes suddenly lit up and he reached over. Syllable. Orochimaru's hand was knocked off. Ape Fei smiled and said, Big snake pill, you go to do something first, come back, this thing is for you. Quote. What's going on? Go to Union Village and bring Tuan Zhang back. Orochimaru squinted his eyes and said, Teacher, are you in some trouble? Quote. Sarutobi smiled and said, according to our chants, Tuanzo should get a little loot back, such as Neo. Quote. The big snake pill's pupils shrank, 2 tails. Isn't Lei Ying going to chase and kill again? Quote. Not long ago, he was hammered by the thunder shadow, and the big snake pill didn't want to try it a second time. Ape Fei smiled and said, you don't need to put too much pressure, you just need to support Tuan Zhang this time. Lei Ying, I will deal with it, the old man has not been active for a few years. Quote. The big snake pill has not calmed the waves in his heart. Teacher, we are equivalent to deceiving Union Village. Quote. Deception. This is the lesson they learned from infiltrating our Konoha to snatch the future Nine Tails Pillar Force. Sarutobi smiled and shook his head. We in Konoha don't come when they want to, and they can leave if they want. Quote. Teacher, am I going now? No hurry, 3 days soon, a week later, during this time, you will be by my side for the time being. The big snake pill nodded. He also understood that after he knew this news, he could not walk out of the sight of the ape-flying sun. This is the rule. Teacher, can you give me a study of that thing? No, you study it, there is no day or night, and when the time comes, you will miss a big thing. Orochimaru was depressed. Step into the land of water, and a humid sea breeze blows in your face. Obito said excitedly. Teacher, next, what are we going to do? Kill into the misty hidden village. Quote. Yefeng glanced at Obito and said, can you kill chickens, or ducks? Also kill into the mist hidden village, wait until you can kill it yourself. Quote. Obito suddenly said unconvinced. Teacher, I am a genius ninja of the Uchiha family who opened the Sharingan. Quote. Yefeng glanced at the woods in front of him and said, okay, the genius ninja of the Uchiha family, you go up, someone is coming. Quote. It was actually discovered. Suddenly, a large knife cut through the grass, revealing the figure inside. It was a hideous-looking man with a shark-like face, skin color, and sharp teeth. A mist shinobu next to him pointed at Yikaide and said, Oni Lord, that's them, and one of the little guys is the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. Quote. Yifeng was slightly stunned. Dried persimmon ghost mackerel. Quote. Looking at his big knife, it is just an ordinary big knife, not a bandaged mackerel. And people are also very young. It seems that he has not yet become a member of the Ninja Knife 7. Oni stared at Yokade and said, Konoha ninja, you know me. Quote. Of course I know, the famous shark man. Obito looked at Yifeng, and then looked at the shark man on the opposite side, and his legs were frightened. Yokade also touched Obito's head and said, go on, the genius ninja of the Uchiha family. Quote. Obito's legs were trembling, and he was about to cry, on the up. Quote. His chakra eyes saw that the man on the opposite side, the chakra on his body, was 10 times stronger than those ninjas before. It looks so fierce, wouldn't he be killed by a knife when he went up? Kakashi also took out the kunai and stared at the dried persimmon on a mackerel, feeling that the atmosphere was very dignified. Yifeng was still saying, you guys go out, you must hide your strength, don't show off at every turn. You see that Obito is recognized all of a sudden, others know that you are the Uchiha family, when the time comes, specifically kill you and gouge your eyes. Quote. Lin couldn't laugh or cry. Teacher Yefeng is good everywhere, but he likes to play tricks and bring soil too much. Obito originally thought that Yefeng was playing tricks on him, and the dried persimmon ghost mackerel was such a terrifying look, he didn't want to fight with the dry persimmon ghost mackerel. But Yefeng immediately retreated 10 meters, allowing Obito to stand in the front. Haha, really interesting, are you trying to train newcomers? I'll let all of you die here, cut off all your feet, and throw them to feed the sharks. Yefeng smiled. Feed the sharks. If you feed more sharks, you will always be fed sharks one day. Quote. Find death. Dried persimmon ghost mackerel whole body chakra eruption. Kakashi's eyes widened, and the kunai in his hand immediately struck. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel swung the big sword in his hand, instantly cut off the oncoming Kuwu, and then slashed towards Obito. Ah! Obito screamed, and the whole person sat on the ground, but accidentally escaped. Mainly the vines that emerged from the feet of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel slightly stopped the dried persimmon ghost mackerel a little. That's it a little bit, rubbing the scalp with dirt and passing. It's just that the hair on the top of the head with soil is connected to the scalp and is directly cut off. Instant baldness. Yefeng couldn't help but laugh. Obito cried directly. His eyes were full of panic. It turned out that Yefeng really wouldn't save him. It's terrifying. Kakashi cursed. Obito, you shot. Quote. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel laughed and said, little ghost, you only know how to cry. Go to death. If you want to blame you waste adults for not saving you. Quote. Just under the existential crisis, Obito's chakra eyes turned, and he blocked the big knife of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel with the kunai in his hand. And Yifeng's figure also suddenly appeared in front of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel, stopping the dry persimmon ghost mackerel. And the big knife of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel is still smashed into the bitterness of the soil because of inertia. Bang! Obito's whole body flew out upside down, feeling that his entire arm was completely unconscious. Obito, it's good, you blocked the blow of Shangnan, it's worth praise. Obito was stunned for a moment, and looked back, teacher. Looking ahead, another teacher was fighting with the terrifying shark man. That's a doppelganger. Obito, I'll help you heal. Rin hurriedly came up to use the healing technique on Obito, concentrated chakra in the palm of her hand, and aimed it at Obito's arm to heal. Obito looked at Rin's appearance and couldn't help but be in a daze, feeling his arm contained in a warm stream of heat. Okay. Lin pouted and said, Teacher, isn't it too dangerous for you to do this? Obito's arm almost broke it. Quote. Obito heard Rin care about himself like this, and his heart suddenly warmed, thinking of becoming a Hokage in the future and marrying Rin as a wife. Of course, this is just wishful thinking on the part of a small otaku. Yefeng smiled and said, it's not dangerous, can you grow? Quote. On the battlefield, the scalp of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel is numb. A doppelganger actually beat himself so that he couldn't fight back. Just when the dry persimmon ghost mackerel was about to use his trick water escape bursting water rushing wave to completely turn this place into a piece of Wang Yang, Yifeng suddenly retreated. Yokade said, Kakashi, it's your turn, this is a very good opportunity to exercise. Quote. The blue-gray face of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel also showed an ugly look. This guy actually regarded himself as a sparring partner for these three little ghosts. Kakashi nodded and said, okay, sensei, I'm just trying to use my latest trick. Quote. Ah, lay done. With Kakashi's loud gulp, a dazzling thunder light appeared in the short sword in his hand, very dazzling, making a sound that seemed like 1,000 birds were screaming. Yi Kaide's eyes also lit up. Kakashi was so young, he created Chidori himself. Little ghost, it's kind of interesting. The dried persimmon Oni laughed, and his figure flashed, kicking Kakashi away. Kakashi was handsome for only 3 seconds, and he smashed directly on the ground, spitting blood from his mouth. Yefeng was embarrassed. This move looks handsome, but Kakashi is still too small, and the trick reading seconds bar is a bit long, and it was interrupted before the move. Kakashi. Rin immediately used healing on Kakashi, and at the same time, Obito threw his shuriken at the dried persimmon Onako, not as stupidly as before. Yifeng, who was watching the battle next to him, nodded in satisfaction. After Yifeng's previous training for them, now that they encounter battles, they will at least not be in a hurry and can play their due role. The only thing that was a little funny was the hair with soil, which was directly leveled by the dried persimmon ghost mackerel. Obito threw shuriken and kunai while crying again. His hair was so gone, and he just took a look in Lin's mirror, it was so ugly, and Lin didn't like herself. Ah, the dried persimmon ghost mackerel is furious. Water escape, burst water rush. As soon as the dried persimmon ghost mackerel's voice fell, countless streams of water erupted from his mouth in an instant, and the huge water quickly covered this woodland. Then a huge lake appeared in front of everyone. Everyone was trapped by this huge lake, as if they were inside a huge swimming pool. Obito, Rin, and Kakashi's faces all changed, and they all looked at Yi Kaide. They've never been in a situation like this. Yifeng didn't expect that the dried persimmon ghost mackerel was so strong at this time. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel laughed cruelly at Yifeng's few people. Now that you are dead, in this battlefield that completely belongs to me, next, you will obediently wait here for death, slowly struggling in the abyss of this sea. Quote. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel laughed arrogantly. Water escape water dragon bullet technique. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel burst out, and chakra immediately formed a shark-like water bomb and flew towards the position of the three people. Mudden Mu ingot wall. Yifeng's hands were sealed, and a row of wooden pillars bent from the ground to form arches behind him, blocking him and the 7th class. Bang, bang, bang. The water mackerel bomb hit the wall of the wooden ingot released by the night maple and dissipated directly. But the dried persimmon mackerel is not worried. Because in the water, his chakra sharks are endless. And it was only a matter of time before this wooden ingot wall, which was slightly fragile to him, destroyed it. Lin said worriedly, Teacher Yefeng, that guy's shark seems to be endless as long as there is enough chakra on the water. Quote. Obito opened the Sharingan, nodded and said, "Teacher, his chakra has not decreased, but has increased." Quote. Kakashi looked at Yefeng speechlessly. "Teacher, it's all this time, aren't you serious yet?" Quote. Yifeng shook his head and said, "No, I'm just thinking about how to break through his explosive water rush." Quote. Mu done. Birth of the Tree Realm. I saw the earth rumble, and the ground cracked, countless spider web cracks and shook. Densely packed small saplings break through the ground and grow wildly at a speed visible to the naked eye, turning into a dense forest in a blink of an eye. The trees in all directions stretch out their hideous and thick branches like life. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel's eyes are about to pop out. The lake caused by his bursting water instantly seeped into the crack in the ground and disappeared. What kind of trick is this? When did Konoha come out with such a monster? The first reaction of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel is to escape. He can't beat this man. However, the dried persimmon ghost mackerel had not yet run out, and was instantly surrounded by countless tree roots and vines. Swish, swish, swish. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel cut off the root vine in front, and the root vine in the back drilled out again. Obito also shouted, "Go and die. Shark monster." Quote. Then Obito and Kakashi's kunai held in their hands shot towards each other. At the same time, Yifeng's shadow avatar also kicked towards the dried persimmon ghost mackerel fiercely. Su, su. The reaction of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel was also extremely fast. His body shook, and several kunai pieces were inserted into his cheeks. The reason why he inserted it was because he didn't have the strength to pay attention to the 7th class at all, but was preoccupied with dodging Yifeng's attack. Abominable little ghost, you wait. With a kunai stuck in his head, the dried persimmon ghost mackerel shouted angrily, and quickly turned around and ran. However, countless tree roots and vines continued to drill out and directly surrounded him. Obito laughed and said, "Haha, shark monster, I'll make you arrogant again." Quote. Kakashi rolled his eyes. Lin watched from the side, her eyes sparkling as she looked at Yifeng's back, and suddenly felt that Yifeng's back was very tall. Originally, she felt that Yefeng was too bloody, and she wanted to take the soil to kill. But now it seems that in these few short days, there are probably more changes in the soil than in the past year. And her own thinking has changed a lot. All this comes from teacher Yifeng. Ah! Suddenly, the dried persimmon ghost mackerel, which was wrapped in rice dumplings, roared angrily, and actually broke the roots and vines of the tree. Bang! With a loud bang, tree roots and vines flew, and the dried persimmon ghost mackerel fled directly into the forest. Sure enough, it's a tailed beast, comparable to the power of the tailed beast. Let's chase. Yifeng sighed and hurriedly chased after him. The birth of the tree realm is very awesome, but as long as you escape this range and catch up, it is a little difficult. And the dried persimmon ghost mackerel belongs to the type of tired people who run and run fast. Teacher. Lin hurriedly stopped Yifeng. Yifeng saw that Lin was not walking fast, and directly picked up Lin, the little loli, with one hand. Rin immediately blushed a little shyly. Teacher, wait for me. Obito immediately shouted. Of course, Yefeng didn't have any special thoughts about Lin, the little loli. You're too slow, Lin, what did you just say? Lin blushed slightly and said, Teacher, isn't our task to find that little girl? How did it become chasing and killing Mist Shinobi? Let's catch up first. They Mist Shinobu appeared here, which means that they are also searching, maybe they already have clues. Lin heard Yifeng's explanation and nodded convincingly. So it is, the teacher is really thoughtful. Quote. In fact, Yefeng just wanted to fight, but he also had to find a reasonable reason. Shadow Doppelganger Art. Night Maple froze, leaving a shadow doppelganger behind, taking care of Obito and Kakashi, who couldn't keep up, and then hugged Rin and chased after him. No way, the tailed beast of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel runs too fast, and if you don't chase a little closer, you will really lose it. Teacher, wait, Obito shouted, and when he saw Yifeng, he left a shadow doppelganger. Kakashi is also speechless. Teacher Yefeng is too unreliable, and he is suspected of being a lolicon. While fleeing, the dried persimmon ghost mackerel turned around, and when he saw Yefeng and Rin, his eyes were about to pop out. What kind of monster is this, holding a little girl, and chasing so tightly? It's terrifying. You have to ask Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost Lord, Loquat Juzo-sama, these Ninja Dao 7 people joining forces may not be able to solve this monster. Thinking of this, the dried persimmon ghost mackerel still ran quickly in the direction of the 7 people of the ninja knife. After all, he knew that the 7 people of the Ninja Dao, the 7 adults, were still acting together, and if they separated, they would be broken one by this monster when the time came, and it would be even worse. After chasing for 5 minutes, the dried persimmon ghost mackerel felt that it was about to run out, and when he looked back, he saw that Yefeng was still behind. "Where is the watermelon mountain puffer fish ghost? I'm dying of exhaustion." Quote. Yifeng chased behind, and was also very surprised. So young, it didn't look like a 20-year-old dried persimmon ghost mackerel, it was so energetic. Is it through 1 or 2 lakes and can be accelerated by using water escape? The chakra in the body seems to be inexhaustible. Yifeng was suddenly curious, this should be the blood succession limit, right? At this time, not far ahead, the birds were startled, followed by a burst of laughter, which shook the entire forest. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel's eyes suddenly lit up, and the adults of the 7 people of the ninja knife were in front. When he looked back, Yefeng was still chasing him, and suddenly showed a terrified look, but he laughed loudly in his heart. "Chase, chase, you'll die later. I'm going to cut off your feet to feed the sharks." In the forest ahead, Makoto Uchiha carries a student, Haruno Jiao carries 2 students, all 3 of whom were students in the last class, all unconscious. Followed by Matkai, Butchie Firestring, and Ebisu third shift, they are shuttling through the woods at a very fast speed. Suddenly, all of them stopped. In front of them, 7 people of varying fatness and thinness, both in appearance and with weapons in their hands, were extremely strange, stopped them. The mist shinobu who was chasing and killing behind also fell, and said to these 7 strange people, "The 7 people of the ninja sword, the 7 adults, they are the Konoha ninjas lurking in, and they seem to be looking for something." Quote. "Very good, catch them, unexpectedly, there are beautiful ninjas from Konoha, we like it the most. Hey, it's my turn to try it first this time, right? Fart, I've been empty several times." The face of Haruno Jiao, the middle ninja teacher at the head, changed drastically, the 7 people of the ninja sword in the mist-hidden village. Quote. "There are 7 ninja swords, but the most elite upper ninja among the mist ninja, each of them has a bloody weapon and kills countless people, which are Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost, Loquat Juzo, Chestnut Skewer Maru, Sukusa Wild Bait Man, No Pair Shinichi, Black Ho Thunder Tooth, and Ghost Lantern Thousand Blades. There were 7 people in front of me." Makoto Uchiha was equally pale, and these weirdos looked into her eyes as if they were going to eat him. "How come? They are the Ninja Dao 7 of Mist Hidden Village. Wasn't it led away?" Quote. Haruno Jiao said in a deep voice, "I don't know, what accident may have happened." Quote. "Accident, such an accident, we will all die here." Quote. Uchiha Makoto suddenly remembered Yokade in her heart, and when she was leaving, she gave her an amulet to carry with her. Her hand grabbed it in her pocket and took out the amulet. Matkai, Butchie Firestring, and Ebisu 3 who had just graduated were also trembling with fear. "Oops, we're surrounded. You can't escape at all." The tall and thin masked man standing at the front made a hoarse voice, "I didn't expect us to be so prestigious. Even the children of Konoha village know." Quote. "Although you don't have a lot of blood, only a little, but the knife is a little rusty, you must let it suck blood to replenish the iron element." Makoto Uchiha hurriedly blocked in front of the 3 students, gritting her teeth. What to do, only us, not his opponent at all. "Yifeng-kun, where are you?" At this moment, a figure appeared. Uchiha Makoto was overjoyed. It won't be Yifeng-jun coming to save himself, right? Turning his head, Uchiha Makoto was stunned. Ah, finally caught up. A strange guy dressed in green, with a weird black hairstyle and a green glow all over his body, suddenly appeared. Kai, the student behind her, suddenly shouted, "Dad, why are you here?" As a father of shinobi, how could he appear here? Quote. "Father." Everyone looked at the comer, stunned. The one who came was Matkai's father, Mat Dai, an unremarkable shinobi. Mater Dai said in a deep voice, "Don't say it, you guys run away, we'll buy time." Quote. Kai said anxiously, "You said let's escape, but Dad, the other side is Shangnan, and it's still the Ghost Dao 7. Quote. Just by relying on your father, you can't resist it at all. Let's go, Kai, don't forget that I still have the 8 gates of death. Kai was stunned for a moment and muttered, but in that case, Dad will. Madara turned around and smiled at Kai, giving a thumbs up. That's self-restraint, and now is the time to swear to death and keep what matters most to you. Quote. In Kai's mind, what Madara said to himself, the so-called real victory is not to defeat the strong, but to protect what is most important to you. Quote. At this time, the 7 people of the ninja Dao on the opposite side laughed out loud. Laugh at me, a Konoha shinobi is funny here, right? Your hairstyle has long been killed in our Wuin village. Yo, it seems that it is a physical practice, come on, punch me and try. Madara coldly looked at Orochimaru, who laughed at him, and said, if I punch you, you will die. Quote. Orochimaru suddenly laughed out loud, and said to the other ninja 7 behind him, he said that he would die if he punched me, come on. You can't kill me, I want you and your son to die. Quote. Madara turned his head and waved his hand to signal Makoto Uchiha to go with them. Suddenly, in the clear sky, a light rain began to fall. Madara's whole body was like steel burning red, and his skin burned red. At this time, everyone found that it was not the light rain just now, but the heat emitted in Madara's body was too large, causing the surrounding water to be rapidly evaporated, thus involving countless fine water lines. Open, 8-gate Dunja array. Madara roared, and the momentum of his whole body suddenly exploded. 8 doors Dunja 8th gate of death, open. Open door, rest door, birth door, wounded door, do door, Jing gate, shock door, death door, collectively known as 8 doors. By unlocking the 8 gates that bind chakra in the human body, you can temporarily gain great power. When the 8 doors are fully opened, you can instantly obtain dozens of times the power above the 5 shadows. After opening the door of death, he will also die because his life force burns out. Bang! The ground was shaking, and time seemed to freeze in this instant. The watermelon mountain puffer ghost suddenly shouted, chestnut shotweed pill retreats quickly. Quote. Kuroshimaru. What? Steam fiery red, chakra fiery red, and the whole body fiery red Madara instantly came to the chestnut shrapnel pill and threw out a punch. Everyone couldn't see clearly, only saw a fiery red shadow streaked by, and the fist had come out. Syllable. A dull sound. Orochimaru's eyes widened, and in the next second, it exploded. Blood splattered everywhere, and the whole body exploded into countless fragments. Both sides are stupid. What is this situation? A shinobi instantly burst the 7 people of the ninja knife. Only Mad Kai is silently crying, Dad is right, his 8-door Dunja can really be killed in seconds. The ninja knife 7 instantly turned into the ninja knife 6, and the other 6 immediately stepped back and looked at Madara, who was like a hungry ghost in hell with great horror. At this time, another exclamation came from outside the woods, Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost Lord. Help me. Quote. The dried persimmon ghost mackerel had just emerged from the woods and saw a ghost-like person with a red shikara all over his body. Who is this? Before reacting, the dried persimmon ghost mackerel instantly flew out upside down, crashed into an unknown number of trees, and had disappeared into the woods. Yefeng and Lin had just chased in when they saw Madara make a move. This person wore green clothes, a strange black hairstyle, red steam all over his body, and his skin turned red, like a beast-like look. Yifeng was slightly stunned. Triumphant. No, it's Kai's father. Mat Day, a man who bursts the ninja knife 7. Yifeng did not expect to be able to witness this scene with his own eyes. Mat wore 8 doors wide open, kicked the dried persimmon ghost mackerel to death, and directly changed the history behind the Hokage. Without the dried persimmon ghost mackerel, the Shao organization would be incomplete, and how much change the plot would have in the future, even Yefeng didn't know. Ding, based on the current situation of the host, give 3 choices. Option 1. At the fastest speed, together with Mad Dai, behead all 7 people of the ninja knife. Reward, A-level ninjutsu, 8-door Dunjia formation plus A-level physical art towards Peacock. Option 2. As a bystander, witness the most brilliant fireworks of this era, and watch the 8 doors open and wear the beheading ninja knife of the 7. Then kill the survivors. Rewards. A-level ninjutsu, 8-door Dunjia array plus A-level physical art Night Phoenix. Option 3. Prevent Dai Baman from opening wide and leave all 7 ninja blades behind. Rewards. Met's favor plus 100, Met Kai's favorites plus 100, Uchiha Makoto's favorites plus 30. Yi Feng felt very unreasonable. Yi Kai, who opened the 8 doors, is obviously a god-level existence that almost killed Banye, at least an S-level figure. Why is the 8-gate Dunja Array an A-grade ninjutsu? For these 3 options, Yi Feng did not have any hesitation and directly chose to prevent Dai from continuing to open the 8 doors. These 3 options are deceptive. Chao Peacock and Night Phoenix are both physical techniques specially opened with the 8 gates Dunja Array, and they are both physical techniques handed down by Madara Dai. Madara Dai is still there, and any ninjutsu in his family can be consulted, which should not be a problem. But if the person hangs up, then there is nothing. Besides, Yi Feng felt that Madara Dai might not be a simple subordinate. With such strength, someone who can create an 8-door Dunja Array will be an ordinary ninja. I'm afraid there are still hidden secrets. As for Makoto's favor plus 30, Yokai didn't pay attention at all. Materday, let me come. Yi Feng suddenly joined the battlefield and put Lin down. Madara Dai looked at Yi Feng, full of doubts. Quote, I'm Yi Feng, I'm very tolerant, it's okay, just leave it to me, cancel the 8-gate Dunja, otherwise you will die. Madara Dai shook his head and said, let's go. Opposite is the Ninja Swordsmen. Quote, saying that, Madara Dai is about to strike again. Hey. Yi Feng sighed, not showing off his strength. Madara Dai didn't believe in himself. Mudu Flower Tree Realm has arrived. This is a newly comprehended S-level ninjutsu after fusing 50% of the character cards between the 1,000-hand pillars, and the enhanced version of the Birth of the Tree Realm. This technique uses one's chakra as nourishment, causing the trees that sleep in the ground to grow rapidly and become larger, and to be able to manipulate these trees freely. With Yi Feng's order, the ground instantly cracked. With a loud bang, the entire ground shook. What was originally a wood, instantly turned into a huge basin, sunken into it. The bulging trunks of trees under the ground will cut through mountains, cut through rocks, and envelop the entire ground. Change the terrain in one fell swoop. This is the strength of the 1,000-hand pillar, and it is only 50% of the strength. And several bright flowers will grow on the trees that grow rapidly, and as soon as the flowers are opened, they can produce toxic pollen, and once they inhale pollen, they will faint due to paralysis. The Ninja Dao 7 who were originally going to retreat, now the Ninja Dao 6, all confined to the newly formed basin. This is Mu Duan. Who is this person? So young, is Konoha's newest genius ninja. There is no information about this person at all. Makoto also quickly put down the student on her shoulder, and her beautiful eyes looked at Yi Feng's back, a little distracted. Haruno Zhao was also stunned. None of them really saw Yi Feng's move, who would have thought that as soon as he made a move. Now the people on both sides are all confused. This guy is too fierce, right? Madara Dai was also shocked by Yi Feng's sudden burst of momentum, and glanced back at Yi Feng, before disarming the 8-gate Dunja Array. As soon as it was lifted, I immediately sat down. At this time, everyone found that Madara Dai's right hand and right foot had been broken. Just now, he punched the chestnut shrapnel pill, and stepped on the dried persimmon ghost mackerel, but in just an instant, his hands and feet were broken, and the horror of the 8 doors of Dunja was fully opened. Dad. At this time, Kai, who was still a child, rushed up. Madara Dai touched Kai's head and said, it's okay. Quote. After saying this, Madara Dai fainted. Dad. Yi Feng glanced at the elementary school student Kai and said, your father just fainted, his life is not in danger, but his hands and feet are broken. Quote. Teacher. Save my dad. Quote. Yokai looked at Uchiha Makoto behind him and said, Makoto, you help me treat him, I'm going to catch these 6 people first. Quote. Oh, okay. As soon as Uchiha Makoto's words fell, Yokai's figure had disappeared. And the 6 people of the Ninja Dao saw that something was wrong and quickly retreated. The arrival of the Flower Tree Realm is not something that ordinary ninjas can use, they have never seen such a terrifying ninjutsu. It must be the blood succession boundary, a terrifying existence like their 2nd generation water shadow. Let's go. There's no need to pester with them. Yes. The 6 members of the Ninja Dao immediately separated and retreated. At this time, hundreds of night maple doppelgangers suddenly appeared in the air. The art of multiple shadow avatars. At the same time, countless tree roots and vines began to surround the 6 people of the ninja Dao. It's as if a supergiant pitcher plant is preying on flies. Makoto Uchiha couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Makoto-sensei, don't look at it, save my father. Makoto suddenly blushed, glared at Kai, and began to treat Madara. Lin also came over and said, I can also do a little healing. Quote. Kai looked at Lin, who looked like a porcelain doll, and his eyes were about to pop out. You too. Rin nodded, crouched down, and used the healing technique on Madara. Makoto asked curiously, you're from Yokade's class? Quote. Yes, sensei, I'm Rin Nohara from the 7th class. Lin said obediently. It's so cute. On Yifeng's side, the battle was almost over. Among the 7 people of the ninja knife, a man in black with 2 knives in his hand controlled the thunder knife and teeth, and the thunder and lightning swept wildly, and the roots and vines of the trees close to him were all electrocuted. This person is none other than Black Ho. Yifeng's doppelganger was about to rush up to take him down. Suddenly, a sharp and slender knife drilled out, instantly piercing the 3 night maple doppelgangers. Then a sound of silk threads rubbing was heard, and as Orochimaru pulled the silk threads, the 3 doppelgangers were torn to shreds. Bang, bang, bang. However, a night maple doppelganger on the other side of the chestnut shripushi pill burst out dazzling thunder light in his hand, making a sound like 1,000 birds screaming, which was very harsh, and instantly rushed towards the chestnut shripushi pill. Thunder Chidori. Although it is only LV3, it is already proficient. Before Orochimaru could react, his right arm had been removed. Black Ho Thunder Tooth saw that Orochimaru was injured, and also stabbed through the doppelganger who injured Orochimaru. But the 2 of them were raised by more doppelgangers. In less than 5 minutes, all 6 people in the ninja knife were injured. Yifeng's shadow avatars are hundreds and thousands, purely bullying. The worst thing is not the chestnut string pill, but the ghost lamp thousand blade, which was directly stunned by the thunder thousand birds of the night Feng, and then directly beheaded. Yefeng himself did not expect this to be the case. Uchiha Makoto wiped her sweat, glanced up at the battlefield, and lost her mind slightly. The 7 people of the ninja knife who couldn't beat themselves at all, in front of Yifeng, it was like beating a child. That's too big a difference. Haruno Jiaoya's body trembled slightly and said, this is our original bloodline inheritor, it's too strong. The Thousand Hands clan is too powerful. Quote. At this time, the Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost and Loquat Juzo roared angrily, water escape, mist hidden art. Quote. This is the ninjutsu used by the mist shinobi upper shinobi, which uses chakra to roll up the water to create a dense fog that flickers in the white world, which is the art of mist concealment. The concentration of fog changes due to the amount of chakra, and they often use this ninjutsu for assassinations. But now, this assassination technique has become an escape technique. Yifeng suddenly smiled. If you want to escape, it's impossible. I have to ask, do you know the whereabouts of Jiaomei? Quote. In less than 10 minutes, the 7 people of the ninja knife died 2 people in a row, and they all became the 5 people of the ninja knife. They are already unwilling to fight, and want to create a thick fog to escape. But no amount of dense fog can run away from hundreds of doppelgangers. They had just run out of the thick fog when they found countless doppelgangers standing in front of them. At this time, the foreheads of the 5 people of the ninja Dao were constantly sweating. How can anyone tell so many shadow doppelgangers? And every shadow avatar is so strong. When did such a powerful young ninja appear in Konoha? Loquat Juzo couldn't help but ask, Konoha ninja, what's your name? Quote. If you are caught, you will naturally know. Saying that, Yefeng has already made a move. Facing the endless doppelganger, the 5 people of the ninja Dao trembled all over. Fight. Water done. Water bomb. Water escape. Water dragon bullet technique. Water escape. Water break. However, before they could use it, they were surrounded by a blanket of tree roots and vines. Instantly strangled. One by one, they were tied up and ended the fight. When Yefeng returned with 5 rice dumplings, everyone was stunned. Especially Makoto Uchiha. Her eyes wandered as she looked at Yikaide, and her heartbeat accelerated a little. The moment Yifeng used the flower tree realm just now, he was really handsome. Will you interrogate? Uchiha Makoto shook her head, while Haruno said, I can try. Quote. Yefeng nodded and said, Yes, ask them, what is the purpose of coming here, and also, knowing that I don't know where Jiaomei is, if I say it, there may be a way to live, and if I don't say anything, I won't be able to die happily. Quote. Haruno Jiao nodded and said, yes, my lord. Quote. Now, Haruno Jiao was completely convinced of Yifeng. Too strong. Strong is strength. In the face of absolute strength, everything else is secondary. However, before Haruno Jiao walked in front of the 5 Zongzi, one of the biggest Zongzi immediately said, Sir, I say. We're here to shine the beauty. Quote. Oh, it's the Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost. Yifeng immediately let go of the Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost and looked at him curiously. Immediately someone roared. Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost, you betrayed the Fog Ninja, the crime deserves death. Quote. Noisy. Yifeng snorted, and the talking Zongzi instantly tightened. Ah! There was a scream, and the people inside had no breath. The Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost immediately shivered, looked at Yifeng, did not dare to resist, and quickly said, we came here, indeed found the approximate whereabouts of Jiaomei, but we can't determine the location. Quote. Is it? Who can determine the location? Quote. We can't determine the place, but the approximate location has been determined. As long as you look for it, you will definitely be able to find it. Yifeng nodded and said, very good, then you too. Take us to find Terumi, and I can give you a way to live. Quote. Really, you didn't lie to us. Quote. Is it necessary to lie to you? As soon as Yifeng's words came out, the other 2 also hurriedly said, I can also lead the way. Quote. Me too. Yifeng shook his head and said, it's too late, your consciousness is not enough. Quote. As soon as the words fell, the 2 rice dumplings instantly tightened, and soon there was no breath inside. Kai and the other children looked at Yokade with a look of awe and horror in their eyes. As newcomers who had just graduated, under the guidance of Haruno Jiao, they did not let Kakashi and Obito kill people like Yokade, so it was the first time they saw people die in front of them so closely. Their faces changed, and they vomited directly to the side. Makoto also frowned, feeling that Yifeng was too murderous. Haruno Jiao next to him took the initiative to explain for Yifeng. The 7 people of the ninja knife are all names piled up with human lives, and in the mist-hidden village, children cannot dare to cry at night, and in their hands, I am afraid that there are also many lives of Konoha ninjas, and even the lives of your families and friends. Quote. Do not use your own kindness to the cruelty of your enemies, it is a foolish thing for yourself. The newly liberated Loquat Juzo and Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost immediately shivered when they heard this. Yifeng said lightly, of course, the 2 of you are a deal, as long as you can find Jiaomei, I will naturally keep my promise. Quote. Okay, I also believe in the credibility of your Konoha ninjas. Yifeng smiled, can you 2 have the qualifications to disbelieve now? At this time, a voice came from the edge of the basin, teacher, where are you? Quote. It was Kakashi and Obito who arrived. After the fight, they finally arrived. Here, Obito saw that the basin was tens of meters high, and suddenly took 2 steps back in fright, not daring to look down. Kakashi also frowned, how can he go down so high? Wait a minute, let's go up. Saying that, Yifeng used Mu Dun first and sent the others up. Then go up yourself. Of course, the Loquat Juzo and Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost went up by themselves. Kakashi and Obito were both startled to see the huge Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost, and the most important thing was that both of them were Mist Shinobu. Yifeng explained. The 2 of them are tour guides. Quote. Loquat Juzo and Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost are full of resentment in their hearts, guide your whole family. We have 7 people who have been tour guides. Thinking about it, their hearts are full of sadness. Now it's 2 ninja knives. 2 people, can they still become a crowd? At this time, a golden flash suddenly arrived. Am I late? Quote. Yifeng nodded and said, yes, Watergate, you are late, and you said that you went to stop the elite of Wuyin village, and as a result, the 7 people of the Ninja Dao came. Quote. Sorry, we were scammed. Okay, then you can quickly send Mater Dai back to Konoha for treatment. I send it. Although Watergate does not despise Sha Shinobi, but at this time, is it a bit of a laborer to send a Sha Shinobi back? Looking closely, it was Mater Dai, and this person was a little special. Watergate glanced at Loquat Juzo and Watermelon Mountain Puffer Ghost and said, what about you? Quote. Let's go find Terumi. They know where Terumi is. Watergate nodded and whispered in Yi Fang's ear. Now there is something wrong with Wuyin village, find it as soon as possible, go early and return early. Quote. Got it. Then I'll go. After the Watergate finished speaking, he picked up Mad Dai, and his figure flashed, and he had disappeared. About 1,000 meters away from Yi Fang, the lower body of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel was completely broken, lost consciousness, and crawled back to Wuyin village with his hands sweating. I can't die. Yi Fang didn't expect that the vitality of the dried persimmon ghost mackerel was so tenacious, and after eating 8 doors and wearing a kick, he was half defeated, and crawled back. Mist Hidden Village, Water Shadow Office. The third generation of Water Shadows, whose names have never been revealed in history, have long black hair, ornaments on their heads, and are used to closing their eyes. Shortly after the death of the second generation of Water Shadow, it was he who implemented the Blood Mist policy on the Mist Hidden Village under the lure of Jerry. Many people in later generations believe that it was the fourth generation of Water Shadow Citrus Yakura who began the Blood Mist. In fact, when Obito was saved by Madara, the Blood Mist had been practiced for a long time, and that was when the third generation of Water Shadow reigned. The third generation of Water Shadow heard the information of the Dark Shinobu of the Mist Hidden Village, and showed a shocked look. What do you say? All 7 people of the ninja sword were destroyed. Quote. Yes, Lord Mizukage, Konoha Sanshin is here, or White Fang. Quote. Lord Mizukage, neither, is a young shinobi with no information at all, he will use the original Hokage's wooden dun. You step back first. Quote. Yes, Lord Mizukage. Shang Shinobu retreated, and there were only 3 generations of Water Shadow in the office. Suddenly, a strange human figure half black and half white appeared on the ground. 3 generations of Water Shadows, how are you thinking about it? If you agree to make a move, you will not only get the friendship of our great Uchiha Madara, but also get Mio Isofu. And, we'll help you too. The third generation of Shui Ying said lightly, just by you. Quote. Ju smiled and said, it's not just me, but thousands. Saying that, countless white absolutes came out from the walls, the ground, and drilled out. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.